All right. Wendy, do we have any public comments on non-agenda items?
Do not have any public comments.
Okay. All right, Blake, I'll turn it over to you. I think aviation is in the spotlight.
Well, we moved items up.
Yeah, let's do, I think we're doing 11.
We're gonna
11,
actually
3,
do
and
11.3 first.
I should follow the order,
Oh,
right?
it's still beyond me though, I think.
Yes.
All right, so 11.3. Real excited to be able to bring to the board tonight, a candidate for Director of Educational Services. Maggie's here with us today. Hello, long history of working. I think that one of the things that stood out was just the enthusiasm and the focus on elementary education and just kind of the passion and love for elementary education was really what was noticeable for us and notable for us. So I'm going to turn it over to Nisha. I know Nisha's going to share a little bit as well, and then maybe we'll get to this item. Or should we move in second item or motion? Yeah.
To approve 11.3.
Yeah.
Yep, second.
I've got some comments for everyone. We are very thrilled to have the board take action on our new recommendation for the Director of Educational Services, Ms. Maggie Mayberry. She comes with a Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education all the way from Iowa State University. And she's been marked with a lot of notable achievements in her roles. She has served as a middle school science teacher for Manhattan Beach Unified, an elementary principal in Torrance Unified, and most recently is the coordinator of elementary education in Beverly Hills Unified. One of the things that really stands out about Maggie is in 2015, while she was teaching middle school science, her dedication to education was recognized, and she was named the California Teacher of the Year national nominee, and had quite the honor of meeting both President Obama and Vice President Biden at the time. And so we're lucky and we're honored to make our recommendation to the board to have Maggie Mayberry serve as our next Director of Educational Services for Weisburd.
All right. So we have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Maggie, welcome to Weisburd.
Sure.
You know, a speech prepared.
A little bit of one.
The Academy, you know.
Thank you, President Martinez, Board of Education, Dr. Silvers, and the Weisburd community. I am so excited to be up here and accept this offer to serve alongside of you. I mean, my core values align so closely, and I'm so excited to, inspire, fulfill, make everyone feel safe, and just continually maintain that our students grow at the highest levels of that they can. And I am so excited. Teachers, you are almost there tomorrow. I have an 8th grade and a little dolphin that's about to graduate. They'll be back here tomorrow, or promoting, excuse me. So you've got this. You're at that end line. I can't wait to see you all in July and get to know you, collaborate with you while we learn about our students and all the upcoming great projects here. So thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to seeing you at many more meetings.
And tomorrow.
Oh, and tomorrow, exactly, tomorrow. Me too. Fan crew in the audience. I have my husband here is also a little educator, Dr. Chad Mayberry. What's funny is I was a science teacher at the middle school and he was a math teacher. So we very much hope these DVS students become engineers one day. These girls that we have had. Emma's now officially 11th grader at DVS, and then Jordan, an 8th grader, about to be a freshman in high school. And these are the most patient kids. Like when I was being trained in CGI, I would come home and practice every number, sense, and reasoning routine, and our walls would be covered in chart paper. And with their AP calculus, Dad, he continues to tutor them. So it's a great experience in our house. And the learning never stops. So thank you for being here.
And Chad, you had a speech too?
Monday. Exactly. So thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Holiday.
Fun. Now we're doing 11.4. Sort of in the same fashion. Just want to say I'm super excited to be able to bring to the board a recommendation for Director of Special Education. Are we still calling it psych? We're still calling it psych services. right? Or is it yes or no?
Next time.
Okay, we're gonna be switching the title, but nonetheless, same job, different title. I want to say that over the last, several years, Kim has stepped in to support special education. And has done just a fantastic job, not only with special education, but any time that the district needed support in a certain area, whether it be principal at school A or principal at school B, or sit on this meeting or be here. I mean, it was just really has done a fantastic job. Just stepping in where needed and being, someone that we could count on and rely on, and really looking forward to letting her kind of get into a position where this is what she's doing. And she knows and is able to really commit to that. So, Kim, definitely you have 100% of my support, and I'm really happy that we're able to bring this to the board today. Nisha, turn it over to you.
Just want to take a motion.
A motion on 11.4
11.4.
and a second.
Second.
Pass it.
Okay, got some comments, very good. Following what Dr. Silvers has said, Kim has actually been a part of Weisburn since 2017, starting as the elementary principal, and most recently has served as the district administrator for special education. It's a hat or many hats that she wears, from responsible for coordinating IEPs to implementing professional development for teachers, and all in all, really collaborating with multiple stakeholders, from parents to teachers to administrators, board members, community members. Prior to Kim coming to Weisburn, she was a teacher and a reading specialist in AP in El Segundo. Most interesting kind of notable fact that I love about Kim is she actually taught in Tokyo, Japan for 4 years prior to coming to El Segundo. So kind of a diverse and neat experience. And so we're thrilled to continue to have her experience and expertise continue in Weisburn as our recommendation as Director of Psychological Services.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Kim.
Well, thank you, Dr. Silvers, members of the board. I don't have a speech plan like Maggie had, but I just want to say thank you. Obviously, Weisburn has been my home. It's where my daughter is. And, today was a big day. She just promoted to middle school. And I've been very fortunate to work with so many amazing people in this district, and I'm really excited to support the special education team. It's something I'm very passionate about, just as a parent of a child with special needs, but also because we have amazing teams here and really good programs. And so I'm really excited to take over with Peggy, and her support has been invaluable for me in these last few years. So thank you. And I'm just really excited to get going. So thank you again.
So, I just want to shout out to both of you. Congratulations. Welcome. Great to have on our team. And I think it's appropriate to note that the people who you are effectively taking over for are in the room and deserve our recognition for the outstanding contributions they have made to our school district for so many years. I'd like to give Dr. Eileen Harbeck and Ms. Peggy Mazzarella a big hand.
I think summer's up.
In two more ways than one.
All right, so today we're joined by Summer Graves. It's the final installation of the school spotlight, where we get to spotlight aviation. So thank you, Ms. Roy and Ms. Mano, for being here today too. Really appreciate that. The two students who we'll get to meet soon. All right.
All right. President Martinez, Dr. Silvers, board, administrative team, we thank you for this opportunity to share all about aviation, what's been happening this school year, what we're looking forward to next school year, moving forward.
Those almost look like our kids.
It's good we're having a Cisco presentation today. That will actually work next year. Can't help it.
Fantastic.
the teeth that are better, I catch it.
So it's been a pleasure working with this wonderful group of educators. As you can see, our aviation aviators here are working hard, taking flight this school year, working collaboratively with the guidance of our Guiding Coalition. And we are very lucky to have two of our Guiding Coalition members, one present and one future, with us today. We have Ms. Trisha Maano, she's our coach and mentor. We have Ms. Morgan Roy, she's one of our third grade teachers. And we're also joined by two wonderful fifth grade students who are our Bulldog Bark editors of our paper. We have Miss Kyla Morgan, and we have Amalia Cole here with us. So they'll be excited to share some information with you just a little bit. All right. Our two priorities that we're focusing on today, we're looking at math and our student wellness and safety. And with our focus on math, we are really excited about this area. We're excited about everything aviation, but looking at math and what we've accomplished this school year and looking at what's coming up are some really exciting things to share with you, focusing on our assurances of making sure that our Bulldogs are future ready and that we are consistently being student-centered and using the student-centered approach. And to talk about what's new, I will pass it over to Ms. Maano.
Thank you, everybody, for having us here tonight. So something that is recently in the works for us right now is we are just completing our post-fellowship year for CODSN. This was a third year, kind of like what we called a bonus year. Really, it was to not only work with just our fellows now, it was to expand worldwide, campus-wide.
We are ambitious here.
To go campus-wide and really to try to sustain some of the things that we've been learning as teachers and to try to put in some really great programs and things. Some of those are including our monthly math challenge, which was something we started this year. And that was where every month teachers were challenged to try a new number sense routine with their classroom. And they got to submit entries, and there was a raffle. Teachers got a little perk from it. Students, also the classroom would receive a math prize. And so the data from that was amazing. In the beginning of the school year in October, I had 8 entries. By April, we had 86 entries that month. So teachers really jumped in and there was kind of a friendly competition. And a lot of the teachers just really put their heart into it, became very creative with it. And I got to see amazing photographs every month that they would send me as their proof. We also had our very first family math night, which was great. We had 18 of our staff come to that family math night, and we had a great turnout. We were using fact fluency games as our entry point, and 100% of our families that filled out the survey felt that they learned something new that night and that they would continue to do those types of activities at home as well. This year, our math focus in TCT was twice a month, and that came with the amazing district math specialist, Holly Compton. Part of the end of year survey that I gave to my teachers was asking what was the biggest impact on math this year for you? What made that biggest impact? And 87% agreed that having Holly and myself able to support them in math made their biggest impact for them. So we were very lucky to have her guiding us in this math focus. And I was also on the math committee, so she's just been a great, light on our campus and really pushing us to really dig into this math initiative. And we're very excited for what's to come with that. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, looking forward to next school year. We are very excited to dive into our new math curriculum, Eureka Math Squared. The teachers who were on the pilot committee were thrilled with what they saw, and they're very enthusiastic. They shared with some of our other teachers part of the process, and everyone is just really excited for the training that we'll have in August and to move forward with Eureka Math Squared. We had release days for each grade level recently, and those were invaluable. All our teachers said was we loved it, we want more. It was great. It was with Holly Compton, and so she was able to help guide them, looking at learning targets, planning for next school year. And we are looking forward to continuing those, the planning that has already been implemented. And then during TCT, our math focus, something that we started this year that we will continue, we looked at ghost walks where you walk into the classrooms, teachers are not in there, students aren't in there, but the work is up. And so you can look around and say, what am I seeing? What do I wonder? What do I want to know more about? Learning from our colleagues in that way. And then also our learning walks where we go into the classroom when teachers are teaching so we can learn from each other as well. So continuing that during our TCT times will be wonderful. And then jumping into our PLC cycle and process and using the questions to guide our focus in mathematics so that we ensure that all our students are being successful in math. And if they need extra support, we can support them in that way too. And then increasing our parent engagement night. Our family math night was well received this year. It was exciting. It was fun. We tried everything and it went well and we learned a lot from it. It wasn't possible without our Coatson grant. So we're going to continue writing Coatson grants for family engagement nights. And we are looking at a possible STEAM night in the fall, along with some math nights too. And I'm excited to share hot off the press that is not on that slide that on Monday we received word from Coatson that we were offered a second or third actually cycle with Coatson. So Trisha Ma'ana will continue as our mentor, which is very exciting. Ms. Roy is going to be one of our fellows along with some of our other teachers. So with this third round of Coatson, we now have about 75% of our teachers have gone through the Coatson cycle, a 2-year cycle, which we're very excited to continue. So you'll hear more about that coming soon. And then looking at our focus on student wellness and safety, I'm going to hand this over to Ms. Roy.
Hello, I'm Morgan Roy. I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Aviation. So I'll be talking about SWS. This year, we've had a lot of really great work happening in this area. Starting off with TCTs, we've been having these one time a month along with at staff meetings. We've been able to work with our counselors and talking as a grade level during our TCT times and then as a whole staff during the staff meetings. So it's been really nice to be able to collaborate grade level and then whole school as well. At the beginning of our weeks, we always start off with a weekly Bulldog Assembly on Monday mornings, which is really awesome for our sense of community. We're able to come together as a school, kind of talk about what kinds of goals we have. Ms. Jones has been coming up and giving students different goals to work on to earn best slips as an individual student, but also as a class, they're able to earn best slips and they're really excited because they're able to choose between an extra recess a few minutes, or they're able to get the front of the line for the lunch pass with it, which is very exciting for our students. So they've been working really hard and we've been seeing a lot of improvements in this area as well with having these incentives. During these assemblies, we also introduce the SEL lessons for the week. So we're able to look at all 3 grade levels, 3rd, 4th, and 5th to see what they're going to be talking about in the classrooms to give them kind of a preview for the week. And then we also have a monthly DEI lesson that we do in the classrooms as well. And just kind of connecting that to our Bulldog Bark that we have. This is our 2nd year that we've had the Bulldog Bark. And it's been really awesome to have Kyla and Amalia because they've been so passionate about it. But they also really wanted to make sure that our newspaper had a section about culture and inclusion. This was really important to them. And as a teacher and both educators, it's really awesome to see how passionate they are about this. So I'm going to hand it off to Kyla and Amalia now to tell you a little bit more about Bulldog Bark.
My name is Kyla Morgan. And my name is Amalia Cole. And we are 5th graders at Aviation Elementary. We are the head editors of the Aviation Elementary School Newspaper Club, the Bulldog Spark. This club started last year, organized by 2 5th graders last year named Sydney Weatherford and Sasha Escalante, and also by Ms. Huff. With the help of Miss. So this year we decided, of being in this club last year as fourth graders, we decided that this year we wanted to continue on what Sasha and Sydney had started and make it even bigger and better. Yes, of course, with the help of Ms. Anna and Ms. Roy. And especially this year, we decided to have a goal to add more culture and inclusivity, as Ms. Roy added. And this is important because we want everyone to feel welcome and proud of who they are. So I know me and Kyla both have very different cultures and stuff like that. So I'm Jewish, so I have so my family celebrates different holidays and stuff like that and eats special foods and things. So in like a couple of these in all of these editions, I've written a piece on a different Jewish holiday or something about the culture of it. And I just feel that it's important because we all have like different ways that we like do things, and sharing those things is even better, like so everyone can understand. Yes, I am Persian and Mexican, and also I am my dad's from Connecticut, and so I and so me and Amalia decided to include different aspects of this in our these different articles, as long as the other writers from different grades, they all have different ideas they want to write about and cultures, and it's just a really fun experience to like let everyone understand and read our work. Thank you. We are going to pass around the third issue of the Bulldog Bark to the board members so you can get a chance to look at it.
Great job. Good job. Thank you so much. It's great. Yeah.
A big thank you to Kyla and Amalia. That
Absolutely.
takes a lot of courage. Our Bulldog Bark also goes out in a digital copy to our families the week before it's issued to students, so that families can preview what's coming. And it gives some great talking points for our families at home as well. And next year, it'll be hard to top this, but we're looking forward to Capturing Kids' Hearts, our new SEL curriculum. We also have some PD days in August for that. So we're looking forward to coming together as a district and learning more about capturing kids' hearts and then implementing once school starts. And then continue during our staff meeting times, again, following the PLC model and using PLC questions focused around SEL as well. And then with our incoming counselor, increasing our group counseling sessions too, just for all of our students. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening to us and being part of our team.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation, and Kyla and Amalia, thank you for that presentation. You know, the world is a better place when we understand each other. So thank you. You guys did a great job.
Well, I mean, since both of my kids go to aviation, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you. I'm so glad. I felt like this year they were the little school that could. A lot of challenges, and really great to see all of the progress and all of the things to come, and love all of the things that are coming in place. And Kyla and Amalia, you guys have been classmates of Rowan's for a long time, so I was so privileged to be able to see you guys promote today.
Yeah.
You cried during your promotion. I see it for all of you.
I have a few comments. I wanted to thank the aviation staff and teachers for their focus on math. I did have an opportunity to attend the math family night. It was fantastic. I think it was mentioned 18 teachers participated. So it's wonderful to see also the passion from all of our teachers, because it'll extend over to the students and help with their achievement as well, and instilling the love of learning. So thank you for that. I think it was a wonderful evening, great turnout. Just very proud to be a part of aviation. It's just a wonderful school. And Kyla and Malia, great presentation. And, you know, thank you for sharing with us, because highlighting and sharing some information about your individual cultures. Probably there's some similarities in there in the different cultures. So like, as Nelson mentioned, it actually helps us to bring us together as well, because the more we understand, we realize we're actually much more similar than we might think. So thank you. That initiative that you're taking is wonderful. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Just thank you to the team. And on a daily basis, I try to read the LA Times, New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. And I know I'm going to enjoy this a lot. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Roy.
Ms. Roy, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to Maggie and family, we did move up your item for a reason. Congratulations again, and a pleasure to meet you. See
Good luck
you
tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. All right. I think we're going to board reports now, right, Blake? Oh, yeah, go. Take a quick recess. We'll take a quick 2-minute recess here. You want to get up and stretch your legs and so forth, please do. All right, we are back. I think things going to board reports now, right?
We are going to board reports. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Roger, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Nelson. I do have just a few comments. I wanted to congratulate everyone in our school sites for their promotions. I know that 2 were held today. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend those today, but I am looking forward to attending tomorrow's for the Weisburn Middle School promotion. I also love the fact that it's going to be held here at the gymnasium. I like the transition from our Weisburn Middle School so that our students, our kids can see the high school where they'll be coming to the high school. So it's really a long time coming for those that know our history with the unification. What a wonderful place to be now, having our own high school here at home and having our students come from our elementaries to our high school here locally. It's absolutely fantastic. Let's see here. Actually, looking forward to the next presentations as well. And I want to just thank everyone and wish them a happy summer, as this is our last board meeting for the school year when school's in session. So truly looking forward to that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Roger. Rebecca.
Thanks, Nelson. So I don't have any prepared remarks. Y'all will be so surprised today. Nothing. It's the end of the school year. I'm done. I'm not studying anymore right now. No, but just to echo Roger's comments about it's been such a wonderful treat to be able to attend the promotions and graduation ceremonies across the district. Just to be able to celebrate the end of the year and to celebrate all of the successes of our students and the ones who are completing a phase of their educational careers. So yeah, it's been wonderful. And you know, it's been like I said about aviation, I think it's been a long school year with its challenges, with its ups and downs. And I feel like we've the end of the year has left us in a better place than where we started. So you know, that's it. Happy summer.
Thank you. Michelle.
I just want to say that, you know, like end of the school year is always so bittersweet. On one hand, you know, teachers and students are celebrating being done, but at the same time, it for a lot of the teachers, it's the end of something. And one of the greatest things about being a teacher, I think, is always being able to start fresh in the new year. And that idea of like, oh, the type of teacher I'm going to be next year. And so I just wanted to commend the teachers for all the hard work that they put into this year. I know sometimes it could feel like it's daunting. It's a daunting task. And sometimes, you know, maybe not thanked. And I really, really want to make sure that we up here appreciate you and know that that we are fully supporting you and all the hard work that you've done this year. So congratulations. And I want to make sure that everybody has a wonderful summer and a safe summer. To the parents out there. We are excited to have your kids back in the fall, but please take care and be safe this summer.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Michelle, you said it well, as did all my peers. It is bittersweet, right? Because especially for losing a couple of our treasured people and gaining some new folks as well. So the transition is bittersweet and also exciting for the new year, but not yet. I did have the privilege, and I say privilege with sincerity, of attending both promotions today at Aviation and Del Air. Boy, if there's something that you forget how inspiring this is when you get lost in the weeds and you go and you see the parents and you see the kids. And one thing that we noted was how the kids were clapping for each other when they were promoting. It's just so exciting and fun to see. And also to have attended some DD graduations last week and promotion tomorrow. It just reminds us we're doing this to raise children to become adults, to be productive citizens and make a difference in the world. And I'm very proud of the work we do. So best wishes to everybody. Congratulations to all the hard work of all of our staff. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil. Good. Just following along on Neil's comments, I also want to congratulate all the promotions and also the recent graduates. We had a chance to attend the Da Vinci Science and Design graduation as well. So I want to congratulate everybody and their families as well on these promotions and graduations. Had a chance on May 31st to walk the sites with Blake. That's always fun when we got out to Del Air, Holly Glen, Aviation, and Wiseburn. Had a great time seeing the classroom environment. I always enjoy that, seeing the teacher interaction, student engagement. I think that the highlight was engaging with one of the students that looked at Blake. I think she was a first grader, and she said, "I know you. You're the owner of Wiseburn." So it's fantastic. It's always great to get out. I also wanted to highlight that this year has been the year, I think, of just wonderful collaboration. We do it, but this year, with the teachers and the staff, we've taken on the planning and the implementation of some great initiatives. We just heard the math initiative, obviously the student wellness and safety, but we're going to implement capturing kids' hearts at the beginning of next year. I think we're doing some wonderful things also, as you saw at the last meeting with Da Vinci. I think that collaboration has led to just wonderful programs in the arts and the music and the sports. So I just think that we're working so well together, and it's great to see on so many fronts. So I feel like we're ending this year, Michelle, really strong and preparing us for the start of the next year. So absolutely agree with all my colleagues on that. Wanted to plug in the June newsletter. If you haven't seen it, I think Erica does such a great job, and everybody involved in providing the information really highlights all the things that are going on at Wiseburn. So definitely take a look at it. So, and then I want to mention Wiseburn Da Vinci Athletics. 19 students recognized for making all first team, second team, Pioneer League, and one of the coaches also being recognized as well. Amazing where we've come in terms of the sports offerings for our kids and being recognized for their athletic excellence. I also just want to commend all the teachers, staff, administration on the job done this year, and want to wish everyone a nice, happy summer. Looking forward to it, myself included. All right, Blake, you're up.
I don't think we have a math update today.
We do.
Oh, we do have a math update. I knew we had a math update today. I was just testing. Testing.
As the owner of Wiseburn, you're just worried. So,
We always have a math update. Once we realized that, good evening. Once we realized that we were going to actually adopt a brand new resource for our TK through fifth, I asked Holly to go ahead and work on a 3-year plan. And this is something we haven't done before when we brought in an adoption. And we used a model that has 3 ideas: the learn, the deepen, and the know. And so Holly went at it really in a thoughtful way. She collaborated with Emma Smiley, who is a coach and mentor over at Bel Air, and also with Tricia Maano over at Aviation. So the three great minds for math together put together this plan. And just if you roll up, it talks about goals and professional development. And if you keep rolling, Wendy, it goes through how we're going to use TCT, expectations all the way through. And at the very bottom, it even has extensions for how they're going to have outreach for families. So all of it's there. It's a beginning, and we are open to modifying, of course, as the years go by. But this will be posted on our staff portal, which is part of our Wiseburn Unified School District, and it's accessible with a password by all of our staff, so they can access it at any time. On top of that, we do have 2 days, as you heard, of PD coming up in August with Eureka Squared, but it's different for TK. TK has specialized needs when they're working with children. So we had a special training for them on their release day with Eureka already, more of a play-based approach to teaching. They will use the days when we are working with Eureka with K through 5th to fine tune those learning skills that they went through. So that's our math update this year.
Just a quick question. Is Eureka doing the PD days?
They are. Mhm.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do know the answer to this. We have a district leadership report. Nisha's gonna share a staffing update. That's it, though.
Yeah.
Do you have something to?
Just one little thing.
You have one little thing? Okay.
All right, I think I shared at the last meeting as well. We are doing well with our staffing report right now. Certificated staffing, most of our teaching positions are filled. We are doing final round interviews for principal position, and so we should be wrapping that up by the next board meeting or at the latest by July. So we do hope to be fully staffed. At this point, we hope to be fully staffed before the school year starts. We might get some surprises in the summer, but for the most part, our hiring frenzy was really towards April and May, and we were glad that we were able to get a jump on that hiring in the beginning. And so now we're just kind of filling in some loose end spots. And so we're in a good spot.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to quickly share that I met the team, the WFA Special Education Committee met on May 30th, and it was a great, really rich conversation. It was a day long. I thought, how will we ever fill a day? And it was a very meaningful, I feel, and I think that the staff, there were 6 WFA members and 3 administrators, including myself. And we did a SWOT analysis of the concerns that were, we queried them and had them query their staff about concerns regarding special education, staffing and things like that. And so we did a SWOT analysis of, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and came up with some topics. And there will be more coming. They will be meeting again in September, and this will continue into the next school year. So I was really happy to be a part of that. It was a really positive day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I take it away?
Yeah.
Okay, I have, I think, our Cisco folks actually asked that we move them down the agenda so they could. Give me 1 minute. I just have a couple quick comments, and then we'll have you come up. I just wanted to, couple things I've been able to participate in over the last few months, or last few weeks, sorry. One was, kindergarten. I just happened to be at Holly Glen and just didn't know, but there was a kinder orientation one day, TK orientation the next day. I just want to say my hats off to Lisa Wilberg and all the teachers that represented. I mean, I'll tell you as a parent, having been able to walk into that environment and just see the care and the energy and the enthusiasm for our newest students, our youngest students, those that some who obviously have never been to school before or not, not one of our schools. It was just such a welcoming environment for them. Led by Lisa, but the teachers presenting on various topics. It was just a really nice thing to see. So I just want to say, I was it's the first one. I think it's the first one I've been to, at least in person. I think online we did one during the pandemic, but anyway, I wanted to share that. Also wanted to say on last week I was able to participate in the raffle. I was superintendent as teacher for the day, and I was tired. Just gonna say, at the end of that day, I was ready. I said, do I go back? Nope, I'm going home. I was tired. Sixth grade class, kids were awesome. Teacher, has a great class. It's clear that, there's expectations are set, but that the kids are there to learn and eager to learn. They learned not one thing about math that day, but they did learn. So you make sure they walked away with something. But just wanted to say, doing, Ashley Bukima's class, my hat's off to her for the year, and was happy to step in and do that, and look forward to doing that again in the future. Also had an opportunity, the last couple of days to attend Leadership Associates Superintendent's Collaborative. Got to hear from John Gray on the budget from school services, on latest update on the budget. That's, we're days away from seeing some final decisions made on that. I say that all to say, had we did and should have presented on the May revise, but even had we, it's going to be a much different story at the end of the day anyway. So we will bring back on the 25th a pretty well, we'll put together a pretty well vetted presentation related to the latest news on the budget and our budget as well, so that you could review that. Also had Molly Grisham there, who is a leadership consultant, but she was a soccer coach. Just we've been using, some of her stuff throughout the year with Cabinet and AGCO, so being able to see her was awesome. And then Carl Cohn, former superintendent of Long Beach Unified and San Diego Unified School District. Both of them are very into equity and belonging, and how do you bring people together. So just hearing those messages was just inspiring. So just happy to have been a part of that. Also had a chance to join, a couple of our board members today for the promotions. I have to make sure I say promotion. I've been, corrected because I keep saying graduation, but promotions from fifth grade. And last week, I did get to experience graduations. Got to go to DBS. My daughter graduated. I am no longer a Wiseburn parent. I just thought about that. I was sitting here.
You're a parent of all the kids.
Yeah, true. But happy to.
As the owner.
Anyway, I just, really wanted to say thank you to the Wiseburn Middle School staff, for the hand they played in both my daughters' experience through middle school, and then DBS and the Da Vinci crew for what they've done, beyond that. So just really, really great experience for them. Next week, we actually get to embark on next year planning. So we're kicking off the 17th and 18th. We have our how-to meeting, day one. I'm going to facilitate just kind of a review of our priorities, our strategic foundation, et cetera. And then we'll lead into some PLC work on the 18th. So really happy to be able to bring that and just kind of keep going, and we'll get a break sometime during the summer, but really being able to kind of get while the momentum is there and we have the information to push that forward. Last thing I want to share, should have shared a positive last, but I'm going to share this anyway. Just wanted to assure the board, there's been some discipline issues that have come up at the middle school over the last couple weeks, and I just want to share that my hat's off to the team over there for the work that they've done. Also, assure you all that we are taking a look at some of the practices, some of the protocols, things that we could do just to always look to improve. I mean, obviously we can't control some behavior, but at least we could put some of the filters in place and some of the, supports in place so that we could help prevent some of the stuff or respond in a way that may be, faster or more efficient. So we're looking at all of that as we explore and go into the next year. But with that being said, I will end on a positive and just I wish everybody a happy summer. Really looking forward to the graduation tomorrow. Promotion tomorrow. Dana Middle School. And I should say, I want to say one other thing, and I apologize, but I'm just going to say, today's Peggy's last day, last board meeting. And I just want to say, Peggy came to us back in, during the pandemic at a point when we really needed support. We were looking for, we had nobody, and we got somebody great. And I really appreciate, the time that you put in with us. It has been a road. It has been a challenge. I know every step of the way, but thank you for handling it with the grace that you did. Appreciated you being part of the team. I'm going to miss you and wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Now we turn it over to Cisco, to Ash Shams and Mike Good.
Good evening, guys. How are you?
Good evening, welcome.
Thank you. Give us 1 second. We just want to plug in our goodies here.
Yeah.
We don't have to have this in front of us.
You could send it,
It's a massive file.
you could
Well, actually,
As they're figuring this out, guys, I just want to share something that was amusing from today at the promotion of Del Air. This was the first first promoting, there you go, thanks, Blake. The first promoting class from the new Del Air Elementary School. And the principal of Del Air, Albert, this was his last, made a comment that he found very amusing, and we candidly found amusing too, but he commented that he is the fresh principal of Del Air. I thought that was amusing and worth sharing, so.
And then put his hand up.
It was fun.
And this is why we need Cisco.
Yes. Well, good evening, everyone. Members of the board, Dr. Silvers, I think Mike's on.
Is it not working? Is this not, so we're not working?
You guys,
You gotta plug that
you
in.
guys cannot be having technical difficulties.
No, but I think this is a
And now-
testament of what we do. As long as it's not a math issue, because somebody on the board had Jaime Escalante as a teacher, so I can't make any math mistakes.
Did you really?
You
did.
3 years?
Yeah.
High school.
Nice. What middle school?
Well, I went to Griffith Middle School
Is that where you?
and then Garfield High School.
I was there, like that was my first teaching job.
Wow.
I was there from 2000 to 2005. Yeah, so now I just.
Garfield, wait a minute, you haven't have gone to, and what, Fourth Street Elementary or?
Humphreys.
Humphreys.
Humphreys Elementary.
Wow.
Now you understand why he's pushing the math initiative, right?
Right,
That's very
Skills
cool.
will be at a very early age, right? A very prominent mathematician.
That's very.
So as we get the slides up, I just want to take a quick opportunity to introduce myself and my colleague. My name is Ash Shams. I'm the Cisco account manager supporting Southern California K-12. My colleague, Mike Good, and I have been supporting school districts in Southern California for 25 years this July, believe it or not. We both started in 6th grade. So we were super excited to come and join the team at Wiseburn. I want to say the better part of 6 to 8 months ago, and started a very thorough assessment that started with a desire to really focus on campus and student safety. And how do we get technology that is complex to respond comprehensively across the board and get cameras that connect to phones, that connect to access control, that connect then to your network, so that we can be able to not only monitor and get adequate responses from our technology, but also give our IT professionals the ability to kind of forecast what that technology then looks like and how it responds. The chart that you see up right now really just highlights the 6 architectures that we focused on over the course of the last 6 months. And that was several thousand man hours. We have a monster team behind us that is absolutely amazing. Bunch of great professionals that spend time on each and every one of these architectures, and they're dedicated and specialized in their specific architecture. So we go from the top down, physical infrastructure, that is the foundation of any network. And that is your fiber, your copper, really the cabling, that is where all of the data flows through. So anything that we have and we utilize here ultimately connects to an access point, but at the end of the day, you require on that copper and that fiber, that cabling to be your network infrastructure. And then from there, your basic routing switch, your wireless, which is what we traditionally understand as route switch for Cisco, if you will. And then the third column down, if you will, is collaboration. And what we consider collaboration is even that board that you have here in the boardroom, telephony, anything that you use to communicate is part of so any endpoint would be part of our collaboration architecture. The fourth one down is data center, and this is what we refer to as the brains of your network. This is where all your storing, your compute, your servers are. The fifth one down is your network security. and this is where your firewall content filtering would reside. And then the last one is campus and student safety, and that is everything from emergency response, mass communication, access control, bells, cameras, and all the way down. Within each one of these architectures, there are a multitude of different makes, models, and manufacturers that existed across your district. There are different companies that participate in each of these architectures. There is only one company on planet Earth that does all of it, and that is Cisco. And that's, I think, what the Cisco difference is. So we spent, like I said, the better part of 6 months kind of going through and doing our assessment, and we spent time on every one of the campuses. I want to share with you a quick map where we dotted and charted not just where current cameras, access points, routers, and switches were, but really where desired points of control so that we can provide a different experience for your teachers, staff, and faculty, and ultimately the students. So one of the things that we did notice, and my colleague will dive a little bit deeper into this, is outside and outdoor access and internet connection was almost non-existent on a lot of the sites. So the experience that our students have and the learning that should theoretically be able to continue outside of the classroom kind of stopped in the classroom. So if a teacher wanted to grab their laptop or their Chromebook or something and go outside and continue the lesson plan, it was almost limited because of the connectivity. And then the next slide is a map of our campus and student safety assessment. We partner with officers, first responders who walk each and every site, and they give us an indication of the lines of sight that they will need in the event of an emergency. So God forbid should something happen, what lines of sight that they need. We are great at technology. We don't know anything about being a first responder, and that's why we depend on these experts. So we walked every single campus, and this just gives you a quick example of the lines of sight that they recommend. This doesn't mean that there will be a camera in place of each line of sight. It just means that they need to be able to see these angles, and sometimes a camera can sufficiently cover 2 or 3 different angles. But that's just a real general overview of the assessment that we conducted over the last 6 months. My colleague Mike is going to dive into each of the specific architectures that I mentioned earlier and kind of give you a good indication of where your current state and perhaps what our proposed state would be.
Ash, can we stop? Are there any questions before this might be a good?
Yeah, and please, at any time, the more interactive, the better. So if anyone has any questions, I think Ash, you did a great job of depicting the level of effort needed to collect all of this data. So thank you, Ash, and thank you all for having us tonight. It is great to see you all. So as Ash alluded to, this assessment took a very long time and a lot of resources and a lot of really smart people that not only were able to uncover all of what is currently at Wiseburn today, but to make recommendations on how we fix some of the challenges that are present in the current infrastructure. So as Ash alluded to, we really focused on 6 different architectures. We're going to start with network infrastructure and really focus in on the current state here. As you can all expect and understand, the current infrastructure at Wiseburn is incredibly outdated, right? So all of the network infrastructure is greater than 12 years old. What this ultimately means is that there is no support, and if anything goes wrong, then the cost to fix something is extraordinary, if it's even available at all. There's no standardization and no automation or visibility into how the network is currently performing. So what that all means for Wiseburn is we don't have any proactive monitoring or alerting to give us the heads up that, hey, we could experience a network outage at Del Air or at Polyglen and therefore experience learning loss, right? A couple other takeaways from the network infrastructure assessment. The complexity of managing all of these various systems makes it almost impossible for a small network team or a small IT team like Wiseburn has to maintain and keep these systems up and running. From a wireless perspective, all of the access points that are currently in the ceiling are no longer supported. So they're end of life and end of support. So that means that this is a very big security risk. We don't have the ability to apply security patches to these products, therefore a potential entry point for bad actors. As I'm sure you have all heard, we do have significant bandwidth issues and an inconsistent Wi-Fi experience across the multitude of sites. And then as Ash alluded to earlier, there is no outdoor wireless coverage at any of the schools. If there is, it is simply bleed over from the wireless coverage on the inside of the classroom. So if you ever see students hovering on the outside of classrooms, that may be the reason why. And again, this is almost impossible to manage. Even if you had a very large and sophisticated IT team, they would have difficulty managing the complexity of the wireless solution that's deployed here at Wiseburn. Are there any questions from anybody here?
Not yet.
Awesome.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is just a ignorance because I don't remember it, but like, is this building included in what we're talking about?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is. This specific room and then all of the square footage that Wiseburn encompasses.
Okay.
None of the assessment covered any of the Da Vinci.
What Neil Goldman wants to know is that display included?
That display is gone.
Neil, yeah, you all may or may not know this, but that is actually an outdoor.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so yes, very, very much in scope. No, not to get too far down into the weeds, but when we did have this discussion, there is the possibility if you guys want to reuse that in a outdoor capacity, right? You're more than welcome to do that. But for our recommendation, I hate to disappoint, that is not anywhere near or included in our recommendation.
Amen, brother.
Awesome. And we'll get to that here in just a moment. So, if there
There's
are.
the least of my priorities. Let's be honest.
No, but it's a fair one, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we had a little challenge connecting that. Yeah. Very, very fair. So, okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about the current state of the network, let's talk a little bit about the proposed solution. First and foremost, for all of those of you that were able to join us up in San Jose a month or two ago, everything that you see here in our presentation tonight is what you saw up in San Jose. So from a network switching perspective, we're proposing all new cloud managed switches. What this ultimately means in layman's terms is that every single switch is very easily managed through a graphical user interface as opposed to having to know code. And all of those switches are guaranteed to be supported and licensed for the next 7 years. All of the equipment, again, is managed through one dashboard, right? So right now, we probably have 20 to 25 different dashboards that are needed to manage Wiseburn's infrastructure, and we're collapsing that down to one dashboard.
I just want to build real quick on the point that Mike was making. Those multitudes of different dashboards not only simplify things for your current team, but as you do feel attrition or experience new people coming or going and have a different team, the uptime, grabbing someone and getting them up to speed and basically them understanding where theoretically the bodies may be buried inside of the network is much quicker than where you have a very disparate, separate network and you have multiple different dashboards that you're managing. It becomes almost impossible unless you have the history or the previous team there on site to be able to understand what it was exactly that they were doing. This makes it completely simple to be able to make that transition.
Good point. From a wireless access point, again, the exact same thing. We have the same dashboard that we're using to manage the switches that will manage the wireless access points so that everything is one homogeneous ecosystem and one solution. All of that, again, managed via the dashboard, all of it licensed and supported for 7 years. And then the big one that I think we're really, really proud of is this solution includes complete outdoor wireless coverage at every campus. And I can tell you that as a participant on some of the site walks, I had the opportunity to speak with several of the teachers at every site and ask just very simply what they could do with outdoor wireless coverage. And I don't want to get, overblown here, but a few were on the verge of tears just thinking about the possibilities of what can be, right? So in terms of leveraging this upgrade on your network infrastructure to promote new ways of learning, that is one of the biggest enablers to that. And then the last thing to note is there was a purchase of some equipment, some networking equipment. I believe it was about a year or year and a half ago. Unfortunately, the equipment that was purchased can never, ever operate in the United States of America. It is designated for other countries, and as such, the operating systems and the security patches that are included in it cannot ever be operated. It just simply won't work. And so that's been a very it's a very
Facts.
very large boating is what it is. And so ultimately, this solution includes buying back all of that equipment that can never be operated here in the United States at dollar for dollar, so that ultimately Wiseburn is not held financially hostage for that.
I don't want to harp on this too much, but I do want to make a point that of the $198 billion corporation that is Cisco, less than 4% of our total revenue comes from public education. So this isn't a revenue stream for us. This is a mission and a purpose. Our CEO has made public statements about his challenges with learning and his commitment to public education. Us buying back equipment from school district is just another example of how Cisco, is committed to districts and supporting them in these sort of transitions. So you want to put together a sort of comprehensive and homogeneous system. We all know that there are assets that we have that we found that still have some sort of life in them, or perhaps that were not the right solution from the start, right? Maybe an outdoor board, for example, that comes in. So we could theoretically reuse and repurpose some of those. And for the ones that we can't, we actually buy back those assets and we responsibly e-waste them. So it's something that is not small, not to be overlooked, and it's something that we're both very proud of.
$0 too. Thank you. Yeah.
And
Thank you, by the way.
absolutely.
Is there anything else you guys buy back that we don't have?
That's a great question. I will say this, the conversations that we had with the buyback team regarding the fact that we'd like you to buy this back and you cannot use it in the United States were new and unique and challenging. But again, Cisco's a global company, and so at the end of the day, they will find an ethical way to make that equipment go away. So
Yeah, thank you again, though.
our pleasure. Any other questions regarding the network infrastructure piece before we move on to the next architecture?
Just clarity on the 7 years.
Yes.
What happens after the 7.1 years?
So after the 7-year mark, you have multiple options and opportunities, right? Ultimately, if all of your network infrastructure is still meeting your needs, then you have the ability to continue on using that network infrastructure. The reason for 7 years is that typically that's the life cycle for a lot of this equipment. The fiber
5 to
in the
7.
ground and all of that, or the physical infrastructure being a very big exception, right? That's got a much longer shelf life. But most of this stuff is at the 7-year point. And that's a byproduct of innovation, right? More than anything else, innovation.
It's also the feedback that we got from CASBO and our partnership with the California Association for Business Officers, because the ability to forecast your expenditures as a district and be able to understand what your cost for IT will be in 5-7 years was critical, because the constant moment where the IT person bulges into the room and says, we need $2 million, otherwise everything is going to go down, is a consistent theme across school districts across the country. So how then do we make this more predictable for districts? And putting 7 years of licensing was the feedback for us to be able to have them be able to predict exactly what their costs are going to be for a longer duration.
That was exactly the next question. You may not know this top of head, nor do we need it, but in the paperwork or what you're providing us, do we have an estimate of what that will be? I know it's a guess, but at least something to work with.
Yes, it's provided in the paperwork.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any other questions on network infrastructure? No? Okay, then let's move on. So collaboration, as Ash alluded to, this is really the systems that enable us to communicate. But I will go one step further and to say that collaboration is also the real backbone or central nervous system for any campus and student safety solution, right? And at the end of the day, as when we get to that, all of those really need to be able to work together to enable the best possible responses in case of an emergency. when we look at your current state, from a collaboration perspective, you have really an inoperable calling platform. What we mean by that is that you cannot make any changes to your system right now. So whatever you have today is going to have to meet your needs tomorrow and moving into the future. That would also include like move ads and changes. So if we're welcoming Maggie Mayberry to the district, we're gonna have to do some unnatural things to be able to get her to join your current phone system in layman's terms. The phones themselves are tremendously outdated and defeatured. There's little to no video integration at the school sites. And what we mean by that is the school sites are ultimately not connected to each other from a video perspective, right? And so that is something, as you see when we get into the proposed solution, something that we look to rectify.
That allows for collaboration. So not just from, elementary school to elementary school, but also from school site to subject matter expert. Do you want to engage with somebody from SpaceX? Do you want to talk to a marine biologist on site somewhere at the Great Barrier Reef? All those collaboration boards in those multipurpose rooms allow for the learning sort of to expand way outside of the campuses. And that's not something that currently exists today. And I think when you provide that technology and the PD that goes to it to our teachers, it just explodes to different opportunities.
I was just gonna say, is there anything good? Are we getting anything good? Anything from the assessment? No, I'm kidding. Question is on the phones. Are they also, is it a phone device also 7 years?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Everything included in the solution is warranted and supported for 7 years, licensed, warranted, supported for 7 years.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yep, great question. We've kind of beat this horse a bunch, but the collaboration technology in the boardroom is very outdated. There should not be wires going to microphones, right? We probably shouldn't be using an outdoor display indoors. And you should be able to legibly read the presentation that's being given to you in front. I know these are all bonuses at this point, but
that we should have a camera that you can actually see the people in the audience.
Absolutely a best practice, 100% correct. And so, and we joke a little bit about these things, but look, at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to prepare the kids for the next thing. And all of these technologies are going to be vital and integral into their professional lives. So the more that we can get them using proper technology, whether it be collaboration technology or what they do with the network infrastructure, becomes, very, very paramount and critical.
I want to highlight one quick thing on the WebEx platform. This is going to take you from an on-premises sort of phone solution to something based in the cloud. And how that's advantageous to you is, God forbid, should there be a bad actor or something that happens to your network, emergency responses, if you are on-prem, are then at vulnerable to a potential attack. But when it's in the cloud, you could theoretically experience some sort of attack like that and still be able to respond with emergency response. And that completely changes the game and is a sort of standard now for us inside of K-12.
Yeah, and to build on that in terms of your current state, right now, if you dial 911, you have to audibly tell the dispatcher where you're at, because the collaboration platform that you're on and the outdated phones do not enable automatic E911 tracing back to the source. With the proposed solution that we're talking about, you literally could dial 911 and put the phone down, and the first responders would know not only the campus to go to, but exactly where that phone is at, what room, even what part of the room.
Yeah.
A question with regards to that cloud, specifically for this building here in our administration, obviously the boardroom, but more for the administration. The wireless seems to be a problem here because of the structure of the building. Do you anticipate any issues with the cloud here on this for this particular building at all? Or
we do not, simply because the technology that's incorporated, the advancements in wireless technology from when these wireless access points were created to what is now being, what we have proposed in here, is going to mitigate any potential issue associated with that. I don't want to get too far down in the weeds, but this wireless access point has the ability to communicate with one person at one time. And it can do it really, really fast, right? The wireless access points that we're putting in have the ability to communicate with 10 people. So, I mean, that's just one very high level example of one tiny technology enhancement inside of this wireless solution. But there are many, many more that are incorporated in this that are all going to mitigate the experiences that we've all had, whether it be wireless or whatever created that connectivity issue. All of those are going to be mitigated through this proposed solution, both through the technology that we're talking about here, and then the wiring and the fiber that will ultimately be.
So to your point also about the materials in a building, buildings differ depending on whether they're using concrete, wrought iron, brick, whatever. And so when we do our assessments, we take all of that into consideration, and they do actual tests to be able to see the penetration of the waves and be able to make adequate recommendations for that specific building. So it's not a peanut butter spread regardless of what type of material or space that you have.
And not just to build on this, and to be honest, what we're talking about is the wireless coverage. I am not, and we are not going to be able to do anything about your cellular service inside of a bomb bunker, right? Well, it's essentially these buildings here in El Segundo were built like,
DSA, baby, DSA.
So the concrete does make it very difficult to get the cellular coverage through, but ultimately the wireless will have no issue whatsoever. So, yep. Any questions? I know we've kind of jumped all over the place on this one, but any questions regarding the current state of the collaboration? Obviously, it's pretty dire. As Ash alluded to, the platform that we'd be moving to is WebEx. Incredibly simplified management. Again, it's one graphical user interface, right? So the same dashboard that we're using. The security is greatly enhanced. That is also something with your current state. Your collaboration platform is very insecure, right? And so we're going to look to shore up all of those security vulnerabilities. We are going to replace every single phone in the district. As we talked about earlier, we will have one new commercial grade indoor display for the boardroom. We will also have adjacent to that one new interactive display, right? So there will be kind of competing displays that will enable the presenter to ultimately either annotate or call out or highlight specific items of their presentation. And then we talked about this again in the multi-purpose rooms. We will have one interactive collaboration board per school. Again, that is fully touchscreen and interactive and collaborative, interconnected with every other school and the district office so that we can really take that to the next level. Yes.
Mike, could you just share too? I think that one of the things that was that's salient is the fact that these boards can also, so they're on the WebEx platform.
Right.
And so they can also translate.
Mhm.
And I think part of that is we look to, meetings, IEP meetings or 504 meetings, or just a meeting that, can you just explain that a little bit? I mean, I
Absolutely. So the WebEx platform is built with intelligence and ultimately language dictation. I'm going to completely butcher this, and I'm sorry. It's significantly more languages than you could ever possibly have in your school district. I think it's greater than 90.
Greater than 100.
Greater than 100 languages.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, all that you would do is with the push of a touch screen, you would activate that feature, and then you can tell it what language you want to translate to. And then as you're speaking on the screen, it's going to give you the translated, verbiage in text again. And so not to get too far down in the weeds, but if you're speaking Tagalog and you're speaking Spanish, and then you all can get
How
your,
did you know?
then you can, your own individual experience is tailored to you. So it's not like you have to pick Spanish for everybody or, yes.
In the NPRs, are we talking about tying in the WebEx and the interactive boards with a projector and a screen?
The board itself is what actually provides the translation, but if somebody's.
The translation, I'm talking about how is this seen by people in the NPR?
Yeah, so there would actually be a giant board on a cart that we would move to the front of the room. It can also be mounted in the rooms, right?
How giant?
75-inch boards, yeah.
Not very giant.
No,
Yeah. Well, depending on how outdoor giant you might.
I would say, you know, one thing we talked about is, you know, they're on wheels. So, I mean, they'd obviously be movable. The idea was to maybe have them in conference rooms standard and, you know, you could use them in a multi-purpose room if you need them. We're gonna have to have another screen option in the multi-purpose rooms. It's probably not gonna be that unless it's a smaller group or you're doing staff meetings or whatever that may be, you'd use them. But, you know, to the extent that they are gonna serve as like the main screen is not what we're going for.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm thinking about is like when we do the performances, like the kids' performances or things like that.
Here?
Parents, right, well, right, the elementary, like in Hollywood,
Yes.
for example,
Yes.
right? Right now, they put a little computer in front of all of the kids and Zoom for the parents. Maybe there's a way that
Would
that
change the
could be
experience.
improved.
It'll absolutely change the experience.
Absolutely, yeah, so, to try and make it as simple as possible, a little bit like what you have set up here, right? So you have a dedicated pan tilt zoom camera that has the ability to capture the action at the front of the room, right? And that can absolutely, solve that problem as opposed to putting a computer in front.
I mean, this is tiny, but are projectors and cameras part of this equation indoors as well, or no?
Indoor cameras are not part of the equation. It's, so for our personal experience, just serving school districts, it's been a large collective bargaining agreement issue. And so we do not go inside of classrooms. We
I
do
was
go-
thinking more of the
Main
MPRs
areas.
or
Yeah.
Main areas, yeah. So common areas, yes. But inside of classrooms, no.
Any other questions on collaboration? Let's move on.
Oh, you talked about the board.
Yeah. No, you're
No,
good.
you're good. That was a little joke. We're getting the horn.
So as Ash alluded to earlier, the physical infrastructure really comes down to not only the cabling in the ground that passes data from one site to another and class to class, but then it's also the cabling that you see inside of the racks. The before picture that you see there is the actual rack at Wiseburn Middle School. And that is representative of every single rack that you'll see at every site. And honestly, when a solution's been left for 12 years at every school district, this is what we see, right? This is very standard. However, as you can imagine, if something were to go wrong and I needed to find port 23 on that switch and the cable that's connected to it, you know, I wouldn't like my chances on the left. When this project is complete, all of the cabinets will look exactly like what you see on the right. So they will be very neatly and nicely laid out, labeled, and making it incredibly easy for our technicians to get exactly to the point of need when that happens. So in getting into the details, we're going to modernize the 20-plus-year-old fiber and copper that is in the ground at every campus in the district office. We're going to rectify what we call cable management. So that's the spaghetti on the left, as like I just alluded to with what you see on the right. Blake, you asked earlier, is there something good or something positive going? I've got great news. We are reusing the racks that are in the closets right now so that, yeah, it turns out metal has not advanced in technology the last 20 years. And so, but no, in all seriousness, the size of these switches has changed over time, but the dimensions of the racks allow for us to use the modern technology and not have to encumber the cost or the exercise of going through and changing out those racks. So congratulations, Dr. Silvers.
Mike, remind me, I know that we're in a great area for fiber, from my understanding. What fiber are we going to?
So, great question. So, ultimately, when we did this assessment, right, we were looking at the possibility of deploying a dark fiber ring for the school district. Through this assessment, we learned that the Wiseburn Unified School District is resident on top of what they refer to as Data Center Alley. And in layman's terms, what that means for all of us is there is an unbelievable amount of unused fiber already in the ground today. Now, so that ultimately means that, hey, Wiseburn has the ability to use that fiber that's already in the ground and doesn't have to pay for new fiber to be put into the ground.
Just basically throttle up the bandwidth and the usage that you want.
Correct. Now, with that being said, in this assessment, we also uncovered, and this is again a feather in the cap of the team at Wiseburn, that the district has been leveraging E-rate to go upgrade what you currently have as a 500 megabyte service to a 2 gigabyte service still through Spectrum Communications. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, we have come back to the district and our recommendation is to activate that E-rate subsidized 2 gig service for the next 36 months. That represents 4x the bandwidth that you are utilizing today. And based on all of our projections and assessments, that 36 months, that 2 gigs for the next 36 months will meet your needs inside that time frame. Now, at the end of 36 months, you really have multiple options. We suspect that you are going to need more bandwidth, right, than the 2 gigs that you'll have at that time. So ultimately, the options that you would have would be to leverage the data that we provide in terms of the going rates to negotiate a greater bandwidth or level of service from Spectrum. Or if you wanted to, you could come to NWN Carousel and get that same, most likely it would be 10 gig service. Because the way the industry works is it goes from 1 to 2, and then most of the time to 10. And so you would be looking at a 10 gig service, but that's 3 years down the road.
Are most districts today, obviously they're not as probably as out of date as we are, at least not some districts are, I assume. Are they at 2G? Is that where most of them are operating right now?
Between 2G and 10G.
Yeah, so when we look at a unified school district that is only made up of elementary schools and 1 middle school, then yes, you guys are in a perfect place leveraging 2 gig service. If you had middle schools and high schools and multiple of them, then we would very much be recommending that you had a 10 gig service. Ultimately, what is going to drive more bandwidth need is just the more utilization of the network. And to try and put this as simply as possible, the applications are just becoming more and more bandwidth intensive, right? And that is looking to project, to increase more and more. So very simply put, we're not using less.
It seems hard to believe that 2 gigabytes would be enough. It just seems, especially with the growing video complexity, it just seems hard to imagine that.
It does, but for a district this size, you'll be more than fine for the next 3 years. North of that, depending on how, to Mike's point, applications become more and more demanded. And as your experience improves, so does your expectation, right? So as the experience for somebody improves, a teacher figures out that they can do something and stream something outside, all of a sudden there's 10 teachers doing it, all of a sudden there's 100 teachers doing it. So then the demand would grow. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. This will take years to happen. But once their experience, once this project is done, their experience is going to be night and day. They're really going to see a difference. But that transition to 10 gig, if you will take years.
Yeah, and on that note, I think the comment that Neil was making, we're making such a huge investment, right, in all this new equipment and stuff, that I want to make sure that infrastructure is gonna carry through. It's gonna carry us through in it, but it's also gonna make a huge difference, right? We have all this new equipment, we want to make sure that the experience on the end user is like, wow, yes, it's 4 times full, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and then that makes sense. In 3 years, we know that
Correct.
right after that. Okay.
Yep. And just also, to your point about wanting to make sure that this is gonna last. So when we talk about the dark fiber, that is the fiber outside of Wiseburn property that is being directed to Wiseburn schools. The fiber that we're referring to here is the actual fiber that's on the campuses. The fiber that we're putting in on the campuses is going to be able to pass the traffic at 2, 10, 40, or 100 gigs whenever you guys get to that point. What this means is that independent of negotiating with the service providers, right? The infrastructure that we're putting in, this portion of it, the physical infrastructure, will last you greater than 20 years. So.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, within the next 20 years, there could be like wireless power, right? As crazy as that sounds. And so, you know, the only thing that can really change that is advancement in innovation and technology. So,
Questions on this?
yeah, any questions? No?
Bye-bye spaghetti.
Okay. The data center, I'll move through this very quickly. And I do so just because there's a major vulnerability in the data center today. To put it simply, nobody on the Wiseburn staff has access to the platforms in the data center. Those were knowledge that was lost with.
I do have it.
You have it.
There
Sorry,
you
we
go.
stand corrected. Dr. Silvers has it.
Send it to you.
Oh, thank you. There you go. So it's a major vulnerability in terms of providing security updates and patches. Again, same thing with the network infrastructure. There is nothing proactive. So at this point, we have a very large single point of failure. And if this goes down, it's the central nervous system for all schools. So the entire district goes down. So this would be a major priority in this summer to get this completely changed out. And what does that look like? It's really a complete rebuild of all your operating systems and your servers. It's the implementation of cloud backup, right? This is a best practice at all K-12 school districts throughout the nation, but specifically here in Southern California. And then the switching and the servers and the battery backups would all be new, all under 7 years of support, and they're all proactively monitored, right? So effectively, we go from our current state of having a major vulnerability and having no idea when anything is going to happen to in our proposed state, we have something or someone monitoring that 24/7, giving us many, many advanced alerts before anything were to take all of our school sites down. Any questions here? No.
I do have a question about timing, and I'm sure you're gonna get there. So
Yes. Yeah.
I'll hold it.
Absolutely. And if we do not answer it, please ask it. Thank you. Okay. Network security. Again, the current state, we have several vulnerabilities. Email continues to be the #1 access point for bad actors looking to deploy a ransomware attack or any type of phishing scheme. I don't want to get too technical here, but limited DNS layer protection just again means that we are lacking a necessity in the overall security posture that the district should have. Let me draw a parallel here for you. Think about your network security as trying to secure your home, right? Right now, the district has its front door locked. It has the front windows open, the back slider is open, and even the screen is open, right? And what we're ultimately proposing is that we are going to not only I'll close all of the windows and doors and lock them, but put a security system around it that is monitored and supported 24/7. One other thing to note with your current state, and this applies specifically to your cyber insurance policies. Right now, the district does not have a multi-factor authentication solution in place. That's a big, long, busy word. You know, when you're trying to log into Amazon and it says, hey, I'm sending you a text, put the code in, that's a multi-factor authentication solution. All of the cybersecurity insurance providers are mandating that their K-12 customers implement a multi-factor authentication solution. I believe right now that there is increase in premium if you do not have it. Within 12 to 18 months, they're no longer going to insure you if you do not have it.
What will be your MFA solution?
It's called Duo, and Duo is again under the Cisco umbrella. It is a Cisco product. It is the market share leader in K-12. Right now, about 86% of the K-12 school districts in Southern California are using it.
And how does it work?
So it works a number of different ways, but ultimately we can send you a code. You can use your phone and the facial recognition on your phone.
fingerprints.
Yeah,
you could do,
fingerprint. I mean,
depending on the device or whatever.
Biometric, something,
Correct,
so
correct.
sending access, not an authenticator app or anything like that.
Correct. Absolutely no. No client or anything. Yep.
Great question, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing too is, you only have one firewall in production. A very clearly documented best practice is to have a high availability pair. Again, this is a point at which if the firewall breaks or goes down, then your entire network infrastructure comes to a screeching halt. So that's why we are recommending and proposing what is called a high availability pair. So you have one that is active and working at all the time, and the other that is ready to kick in at a moment's notice if anything goes wrong with the original. We talked about the multi-factor authentication solution. We also don't have any current real endpoint protection, and so that is included in the proposed solution. We're going to shore up the DNS opening right now with a product called Umbrella. Again, Umbrella is used in about 90% of the K-12 school districts today. And then while we don't have any incident response support today, we're really moving to a model that leverages both people, process, and technology. And inside of the technology, it's really leveraging machine learning and artificial intelligence to make sure that the security solution we're putting in place is constantly updating itself and keeping one step ahead of the bad actors, right? So again, not to get too far down in the weeds, but when you have hackers that do bad things, that creates what's called a signature, right? And that signature needs an opposing signature to stop it from allowing these bad things to happen.
We see more traffic than all of our competitors combined globally, as you can understand. So we take that data that may perhaps be a trend that's happening inside of healthcare or financial institutions or law firms or the government or wherever it happens, and we use that data. So to Mike's point, your firewall is constantly benefiting from the experiences that other firewalls are having, so that we understand, like, oh, there are people behaving in this way, so we can prevent that sort of activity from happening on your firewall.
If I may, not to belabor this, but financial institutions is my world, so this is, very concerned. And the biggest issue they continually to share is human. It's, we put all these things in place and the humans are the ones that cause this problem.
Exactly right.
Are there processes, protections in here to help humans not mess us up?
Absolutely. Multiple layers of protection. So that's where I was trying not to get too deep into the weeds. But ultimately, what you're talking about primarily is somebody clicking on a bad link in an email, right? That's the number one entry point for all bad actors. So not only do we have the email security to stop those emails from getting into people's inboxes, in the event that one does get in, that email security and now the DNS layer of protection will stop that click from then infiltrating into your system. So,
I remember hearing this, Mike, and Ashok, when it came to network security. You guys are the main provider, main consultant for the government when it comes to that.
Pentagon, national security, federal government, those are some of our biggest customers.
I've heard of
Yeah.
the White House, to name it. So, yeah, the Cisco, I believe, is the largest federal supplier in the technology space by 250%.
Yeah.
So, and they have the most rigorous security standards out there. So, and then last but not least, ultimately, at the end of the day, we don't have a person monitoring your security posture on staff and on campus all the time. And so it becomes critical to have that 24/7 monitoring and support to ensure that when we're not here, there is someone that's making sure that the home is safe and no one's intruding. And that is all included in this. In the event that the bad actors get the best of all of the technology, all of these layers of protection, and somehow still find a way to get into Wiseburn's infrastructure, then we have not only incident response support, which means in the event of something like that, there will be a Tiger team that immediately activates and remediates any potential security issues. But there's also a breach response team. Again, not trying to get too far down into the weeds, but in the event of a breach, a team will essentially parachute in and take the security vulnerability or the security breach and undo that without Wiseburn having to activate your insurance policies or get the FBI involved for some type of investigation that would lead to all of your equipment being seized and you having to rebuild your.
Not that this ever happens. It is a reality, but a lot of times we are able to resolve those things before that becomes a major issue.
The
And we can see
reason,
those.
the reason why we have such great depth in the security offering is because that example that I just gave you has happened to several of your brothers and sisters here in Southern California. And it's resulted in weeks of learning loss, weeks of having to use cell phones as the only communication method from parents to schools. It's an absolute unmitigated disaster.
Part of the way that we protect against that is the solution that we talked about earlier with the cloud. So putting different pieces of the network, not on premises, protects you from potential bad actors so that your phones and other elements of the network can still respond and function normally, even though despite you may not have a bad actor inside the network.
Would all of our data, PowerSchool, et cetera, be in the cloud and backed up in multiple locations?
Correct.
Absolutely. Correct. And all encrypted.
Who do we use
for
the backup for the?
Cisco. Us.
But you have the storage facilities.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. In multiple locations globally.
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right next door.
Okay, moving right along here, talking about campus and student safety. So obviously this, everything that we just talked about ultimately leads to the campus and student safety solutions that ride and depend upon the network and the security infrastructure. And so no surprise to everyone here, all of your current systems are completely reactive. We have, again, no alerting, no notification, no proactive monitoring. All of the door locks throughout the district are manual.
I want to build on that, no alerts and no notifications. So today, the only way that you respond to an incident or an event is you have to find out about it. And then when somebody finds out about it, they report it. You come back in Monday morning, somebody says the bicycle is gone, for example. How then do we find out what transpired? And the individual then has to sift through video from Monday, who knows, to Friday night to be able to identify the moment that that event had transpired. With proactive alerts, you set up parameters and you say, if there is a human being on campus outside of 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., I want to be noticed and I want all these specific things to then transpire. I want lockdown, I want to notify first responders, I want a pre-recorded message that says the Wiseburn School District is closed, the authorities have been notified, please vacate the premises. All these things can happen automatically while we're all fast asleep, right? So it's not something where you come up on Monday and you realize, oh my God, the bike is missing, for example. There's already things that are happening proactively and alerts that tell you, hey, this camera is not functioning at 100%. You may want to go take a look at it, right? So that we don't have an event happen and then go to the footage and say, oh, that camera wasn't working. You'll no longer be in that position. It's a very different place than you are today.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, we can sum this, your current state up by saying that everything is not only reactive, but there is simply no integration with any of your systems, right? And integration ultimately means time to response, right? How fast can we get the necessary people to the necessary place? It also means the ability to actually use the technology to Ash's point, to go back and find that specific point in time that we need to understand what happened. Everything is, again, fractured. Most of the cameras that we found were either inoperable or completely broken. From a camera coverage perspective, you guys currently have less than 25% of the national average, or what is typically needed for similar school sizes or schools of similar size. The video quality that we were able to see was very, very poor and very, very hard to detect. There was no analytics or no intelligence built into either the cameras or the operating systems. What that means is if I have to go back and find something over the weekend, it's going to take, a trained professional up to days to go back and find that point of need. And then the most, alarming part of the current state is that there's no integration with the local PSAP or what's called 911. And so that's what we were talking about earlier, right? If I call 911 today, I'm dependent on the person calling to give a description on where the first responders need to go, as opposed to where the technology is really there to where I can pick up the phone, just hit one button. I don't even have to dial 911. And that would trigger the local law enforcement coming directly to that call.
To build on Mike's point, if there is an event that happens after hours, the cameras have the intelligence to be able to distinguish between a human being and not a human being. So if you have a coyote or a squirrel on campus, we get those false ring alarm alerts right on our ring alarms. This won't provide that alert. But if it's a human being, then I want all these triggers to happen. And depending on your relationship with your local law enforcement, they could then have access to live footage immediately. Regardless, it's agnostic of the technology that they use. They'll automatically get that feed and they'll then know how to appropriately respond. Is there an individual on there? Is there a bad actor on campus? I know now what exactly to do. Or, oh, it's actually Mrs. Jones. She forgot something in her classroom. She's going back. There's no reason to, ring the alarm, if you will. All of that happening simultaneously while we're at home, if you will, is the difference between almost proactive alerts versus reactive and waiting till something happens.
So was the purpose of showing the cameras up there to show that we do have a pretty good camera system?
We have a very wide variety of makes, models, and manufacturers. This is a common theme, guys. I won't beat ourselves up too much. What ends up happening is a district, a site, an individual gets a budget and they say, hey, look, I know we need cameras in this location. I have some money. I'm going to go to Best Buy or wherever, or CDW. I'll buy a bunch of cameras. That individual 3 years later is a principal at another site or at another district. A new person comes in and there's like, yeah, well, there's a sale on these. Let me go get these. And then you fast forward 10 years later, you have a hodgepodge network and of cameras and solutions that nothing communicates together. So the access control does not speak to the cameras. The cameras don't speak to mass communication. The phone doesn't connect to any of it. So that's kind of where you went. And it's a standard sort of way because we're piecemealing our budget. So we piecemeal our solutions. Oh, right.
So, and yeah, we just talked about no integration with 911. So let's talk a little bit about the proposed solution. We're proposing 254 new Meraki IP security cameras. Again, we talked about the one dashboard. This is for the network, for the wireless, for the collaboration, for the cameras. All of this is operated under one dashboard as opposed to the 23 or so that we have today.
How many cameras do we have today, Mike?
I want to say you have 56 cameras today. Yeah, that's off the top of my head. I have that somewhere in here, but yeah. So we're the 254.
How many of them were?
Don't
answer that question.
I'm not gonna ask. So yeah, exactly. We've talked a lot about the proactive alerting, but again, I just want to stress that all of this is automated. And so it's not dependent upon someone to do this for us, right? So we don't have to have someone on site at the time. All of it is automated and delivered back to the administration or whoever we deem to receive the information. We're also including all new Allegion door hardware. And in combination with this is access control, right? So today we're under lock and key. If someone loses a master set of keys, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars to rekey a site. No longer will that be the case. Thank you. It's a longer one. Sorry, my battery's.
So we're rekeying the entire district.
So we are redoing all of the door hardware for all of the access doors at the entire district.
With biometric, with code, with what?
With a card read, yeah, with an access control solution that is ultimately has the ability to use key fob, card, phone, mobile credentials, right?
I have a real life question.
Yes.
So in aviation, there's a field and there's a gate and it gets locked with a lock and key.
Right.
I found myself locked on the other side of
Inside, right, yeah.
The other night with some of our scouts, because the janitor had come and closed it. Are you
Right.
guys gonna be also rekeying those sorts of
So
things?
there's basic fundamental experiences that you have where you wouldn't have base access. And so the ability to actually get you onto the system and say designate this door, this gate, this area is far easier than saying like, okay, now I need to give you a master key. But also then.
Physical lock, right? Like,
Right,
like a lock
right.
on a chain.
But also then, like, what happens in the event that, God forbid, somebody loses that key, right? So there's a cost of rekeying either that lock or the entire site if it's a master key. This allows you access to either then use, if you've lost your badge, you can communicate with your IT department, they can reissue a badge, immediately cancel the old badge. There's other ways to mitigate and get you access quicker.
So I think, just to sort of clarify your question there is that this solution that we're presenting today did not include the gates.
Okay.
That's a separate, and the reason why it didn't include the gates is because there actually is some much more extensive hardware that we need to replace on the gates. It's a much more specialized project because some of our gates still have padlocks. We have to remove the padlock and panic. So we are gonna do that. We're gonna get into design. Noemi's actually, she wanted to push that up to a Series A project. So we're gonna get some design of the fence. I don't know if she's laughing or not.
Yeah.
Very good. A or B.
He just made that up.
Yeah, I just made
We
that up.
talked
Yeah.
about this in the context of like the Little League and
Correct,
and stuff, having access and things like that, and like a lot of.
Control whose car to turn on and off the cars, love it.
And what-
Instantly.
Yeah, and
what I-
access to which room, it's control.
Yeah, and I think what's really good about it is that we just set hours, and we could do that even internally with our doors, but I mean, setting hours so that, at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, especially with lights, if we're gonna have lights on our new field, or even decide to put lights on the middle school field, just throwing it out theoretically, that there's a little more control over entry and exit, at times. We know if it's on the field.
And I had a fun time on the soccer field.
They couldn't
Well,
get
we
out.
tried to find the janitor. Thanks, Elizabeth, for going and finding the janitor.
And
Any
theoretically,
additional questions on the access control? All right, I'm gonna switch tabs while you guys get the power going. We're just gonna go to the next.
We have this in our 20 slides or something.
4.
Yeah, exactly. We're almost done. A couple of real quick, so in addition to the hardware and the cameras, all new clocks and speakers, right? And the reason why this is important is, again, all of the current clocks they don't have the ability to display text, right? So from an emergency response perspective, an emergency notification perspective, that is a best practice in all the classrooms that we work with our K-12 customers here in Southern California. I think we just lost power. Sorry, we're
it's just appropriate for our conversation, right?
we'll get going here.
So these meetings theoretically would be broadcast over WebEx in the future.
Correct.
Yep.
We wouldn't have wires on that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Or screens like that down there.
I think you're good.
Stealing microphones and we're
They're
done.
gonna be embedded in the center of
Yeah.
our recess, our
Yeah.
recess.
Yeah, it's like a
Flush,
Okay.
so not hanging like these.
Knew this one works, so we're gonna plug it into this house. Glad this happened, so we demonstrate.
We know. Too soon to talk about timing as he's figuring this out?
No, it's not too soon. So as that's coming up to speed.
Start you guys, because that's a touch screen and I think you just.
Oh, did I touch it?
Oh, the cable. Yes, the cable touches the screen.
Oh.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, I see.
Oh, got it.
Okay, well, we weren't saying anything, so we didn't miss anything on the.
So is it safe to say the new boardroom setup will be a little bit more efficient?
Tremendously efficient. Absolutely.
We talked about implementation to your question a little bit earlier. We've identified the most critical components. So some of the cameras in areas where we currently have cabling. We can easily get cameras up and running. Phone systems, for example, are far easier to deploy. The on-site data center, there are some critical
That's
things.
not
We have
the first thing, the
Right.
hardware.
Right, so we have some we have a list that will kind of itemize that, but there are some very thought out plans about what we would try to address first. And be able to take advantage of the summertime and the fact that you don't have a lot of instruction happening over the summer. And once we do start creeping into the start of the school year, we focus on after hours. So part of our motto is to never impact instruction. So it is always after school or before school. It never happens during school. Once the entire solution's up and running, a cutover would also happen after hours. So none of this would ever impact instruction. Which is critical. It's normal
Yeah, it makes
procedure.
sense. I'm curious how quickly you'd get going, assuming this is on our agenda next board meeting.
Right, it is, go ahead, Mike.
We would start the very next.
Great.
So literally the next day, you would have, not to get too technical here, but you'd have people coming out and vacuuming out the vaults where the fiber connects to, right? We would ultimately immediately start assigning project resources, placing orders for equipment so that equipment can arrive in our staging facilities. We can get all of that imaged and ready to go so that when the cabling is done, we can immediately bring all of that out and get all of the network infrastructure back up and running. Simultaneously with that, we would have a team working on restructuring and rebuilding the data center, right?
Yeah.
At the same time as all of that is happening, we'd have a separate team working to build out all of the network security solutions that are needed for the district, right? So, and here, I think we are back in the meeting.
Is part of your proposal a timeline implementation plan?
Correct.
We have a list of priorities and expectations to be completed this summer.
Great.
that We're absolutely.
Look forward to seeing that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to that point, there's also another critical element, and that is having somebody that's part of the team that is here on site that works directly with the district for an extended period of time to make sure that the solution stands up. So part of the solution is to have somebody on site for an extended period of time. And I think it's 2 years inside of this agreement to make sure that they're not just deploying and implementing, but also part of the cultural change, right? So there's a lot that's going to happen as we start having better experiences and more access. Now the demand and expectations are going to increase. How do we then give people access to different technologies and be able to leverage the stuff that they have in place because their experience is completely different?
Yep, awesome. Thank you guys for your patience, what we got back up and running there. So before we get into what we can expect to complete in December, just a couple highlights on other things that are included in this package that I think are absolutely critical to the successful completion and outcomes that we all want to achieve. First and foremost, included in this package is an on-site, full-time implementation success manager for the first 2 years. This person is going to be responsible for ensuring not only the successful deployment of all the solutions and technology that we talked about, but also the adoption of a lot of these technologies that we talked about. i.e., how do we make sure that what we're putting in has a positive impact and a positive output or outcome to all of our students and their success and their experience, right? Our friends at HP, I think I can say that working in the technology world, but our friends at HP having agreed to donate 2 high-performance laptops with dual monitors to most likely the middle school. And the reason why I said the middle school is what this network infrastructure and technology enables are things that we could not do before in the worlds of robotics and STEAM, and specifically high performance computing, right? So whether that's like esports and gaming, right? Which, oh, by the way, just doled out $1 billion in scholarships this last year.
That's my question about the 2 gigabyte. The gaming is just so intense.
Right.
Okay.
Well, you haven't done it yet, right? So you haven't got to that space. So as you ramp up, you'll get to that space.
And
But yes, it's a very good point.
that's part of the projections for needing 10 gigs in 3 years.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct, right? And the other part of that too, not to get off on a tangent, all of the learning platforms are looking to gamify the way that they deliver curriculum, right? So part of the reason why we go from 2 to 10 and not 2 to 4 to 10. So we talked again about the Security Operations Center and monitoring our network infrastructure 24/7. Absolutely critical to ensuring that we mitigate any potential bad actors infiltrating our infrastructure. All of the solutions that we've talked about today are overlaid with the support of NWN Carousel and all of those professionals that we just talked about, right? In terms of the implementation. And then last but certainly not least is there's gonna be training for any and all IT staff on every single solution that we are deploying. At the end of the day, the goal is to make Wiseburn completely self-sufficient and self-sustaining when it comes to maintaining their networking, security, and collaboration infrastructure.
Like, is that, so the bottom two bullet points, NW security operations and then NW and carousel support, that's the same as the other security or
Correct.
network safe, right? It's okay.
Yeah, just highlighting it again because it's an absolute best practice for all of our K-12 school districts. Very simply put, what we find is the bad actors work in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah.
And they've got a 5-hour, 6-hour, 7-hour head start by the time that somebody gets in the morning and cover the boys out. That 5, 6, 7 hours is absolutely crucial to mitigating how far and deep and wide they get into your infrastructure. So, okay, now let's talk about what we can expect to complete this summer. So, as I just alluded to, the very first thing that we'll see after the board accepts this, if and when the board accepts this solution, is you will see people on the ground starting to replace the cabling, right? This has to happen first because everything rides upon it, right? Then concurrently with the cabling replacement, as we alluded to, all of the data center technology, the network infrastructure, wireless access points, the network security, all of that will be ordered, configured, and prepped and ready to bring on site. The reason why we do all of that offsite is because we have a very, very large operation that this is what they do and they can get this going for us very quickly. To make a quick side note, the project that we're looking at right here obviously is extensive, right? And would, in a perfect world, benefit from, a longer deployment cycle. But we don't have that benefit. And so it ultimately is inherent upon us to make sure that we have teams working in parallel so that we complete all of this work prior to teachers coming back to work in office. We also will be replacing every single phone, all the clocks and the speakers, the mass notification system. We will begin the security camera deployment. And what I mean specifically by that is we will go ahead and replace where every existing camera is today. We will have that replaced before school starts next year. We will leverage a second and third shift after school starts so that we're not doing any work during school hours to implement the remaining 195 cameras and place them at all of the sites, right? So, but Blake, the good news is that like technically we're working on half of that number is actually operational right now. So like, I know it's a joke, but in all seriousness, that first thing is gonna give you double the visibility.
Well, and the quality of the
Yeah,
image
it'll
is
be
night and
quality
day.
better,
Yeah.
And
Like proactive, automated, everything.
You could actually detect what you're looking at and quickly get to that.
So is Noemi holding you back on the door hardware replacement?
100% Noemi.
She said something about DSA. I don't know. Something about this DSA thing.
I didn't realize that Noemi was the head of DSA, but apparently she is now, and so she single-handedly responds.
In more ways than we know.
And so, the bottom line is that we will not do the door hardware replacement unless something dramatically changes in terms of DSA requirements, or you guys have an appetite or a desire to do this over winter break
You're
or
looking
something.
at Blake like he can make something happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, that would be impressive if he could with DSA, right? But yeah, it's in all reality, we are looking at next summer before we're replacing the door hardware and implementing the access control solution.
I would say though, I just want to highlight though, the safety and security will be vastly upgraded prior to that. So we're going to see a massive, improvement anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so in addition to actually being able to leverage the camera technology to see, proactively and reactively what you want, right? We will not have any more of the issues around mass notification, right? All of the speakers and the clocks will have new digital displays and able to display text. So in the event of evacuation, right, we have multiple ways to disseminate that information. It is putting it mildly to say that we are incredibly enhancing the campus and student safety in this district with just the work that is going to be completed in summer of 2024. When we get to the completion of summer 2025, it will be benchmark, and at that point, you guys will have a completely and thorough campus and student safety posture.
Questions?
Teachers and staff learning curve, how do they get on the system? How does that work?
A lot of this is very intuitive. And so historically, there's, formal PD that we would do, and it's still included. It's part of our process is doing that and encouraging folks in there. We like to make it very interactive. So we bring food and we encourage people to come and we make it fun for them. But a lot of this is going to be intuitive. So that one person that's traveling over the summer that couldn't make the PD, for example, whatever, they'll be able to go to their phone right away and they can look at it and make sense of it, right? Just like you could in your hotel room, for example. You know exactly how to pick up the phone. And if there is an event, I could hit 0, I could hit 911. I know exactly how to react. The ability to leverage all the other features inside of that is where the training's there. And so we operate in the sense of teaching one to be able to teach many. So there'll be a head person when we teach the entire staff, but there's also video and things like that that we can deploy for somebody who actually misses the training that they have.
And so, Ash, just to go back to the last piece, which was the 2-year technician.
Correct.
That person will have the information. So I mean, we could do quarterly, we could do in service on our own because that person would be trained to be able to provide that.
Absolutely.
We'll just have to plan the schedule, but.
Yeah, when I was talking about that person and I referenced like adoption, that's exactly what I was referring to, right? We have a very extensive training plan and adoption plan outside of that individual, but 100% that person is going to, once the network infrastructure is upgraded and we get into the day-to-day, their job is going to be not only maintaining that and keeping it working at peak performance, but going around and making sure that everybody's in love with their phone and their security cameras and their clocks and speakers.
That person is here full-time.
Full-time, dedicated to Wiseburn Unified School District. They have no other function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ish, yes.
Yeah.
Voluntary though.
All right.
I'm sure.
And then Dr. Silvers asked a great question the other day, like, okay, so when are you guys gonna cut over, the network?
Yeah.
And it's literally going to be one day you're gonna go home from work with 500 megs of poor performance, and the next morning you're gonna come in and everything is gonna be completely seamless to you.
Same login, same everything?
Same login, same everything. You're just simply going to see incredibly enhanced speed and performance, and then longer term reliability and predictable performance, right?
It's funny you should say login, because the next slide kind of alludes to that. So we talk about the assessment piece being of the actual network and the network infrastructure. There's the experience then of the actual staff, faculty, and folks across the district. So we dove a little bit deeper and started looking at what the current state of the Chromebooks, HP PCs, and the printers look like district-wide.
Yeah, so while we were doing the assessment, the team at Wiseburn asked us to kind of expand upon the scope a little bit, right? Because there were other kind of similar projects that people were looking at. And so, Ash, you want to talk a little bit about the teacher laptops?
Can I just say why we're doing
Yeah.
this? I think one of the big issues that we faced was similar, and it was a good description, I think, that they used about the cameras, was that, you buy 20 cameras and then, 4 break and you just look on Best Buy and you find 4 more and you fix them. I think that's been a similar process that we've taken with laptops. Not as much the laptops, but definitely the desktops and such like that. So you have, I think we'll see maybe a slide where there's 17 different models. So and same thing with Chromebooks. And so we need to establish this sort of district standard related to what that device is.
So the experience that you might have is I do something on my device and then I email it to a peer or a colleague throughout this district, and then they're unable to open it in the same version because perhaps they have a different version of the software on their laptop. The amount or the disparity of makes, models, and manufacturers that we had district-wide was huge. And so the fact that you have so many different sort of software updates, software versions, all of that makes a very difficult experience when you're trying to collaborate as a district. So I'm sure everybody's kind of had that experience one way or another. When you standardize on these type of laptops with built-in technology, with the case that's branded for the district, and we threw that in there as a compliment and a testament to the culture that you have and team effort. So we always want to put branding and the logo for the district on there, but this will provide a completely different experience for folks. So you not only have an updated network, but you also have an updated device. So the experience is completely different.
So Ashley, you just hit on something that I know I've talked to Noemi about and Blake. And it's a, you know, when you're a small district, this is a challenge. We don't have standardization, what I call district-wide standards, whether it's for equipment or so forth, furniture, whatever it is. So I know, Noemi, you're kind of working towards that to get us there. For technology, are we gonna have like a district standard? So when you guys are gone, you know, or not around, that we have somebody that knows this is the district standard.
These are the
standards
standards,
for all our technology, because we don't have that.
So Dr. Silver's hit on it beautifully. From a teacher PC perspective, I think you have like 25 different models and makes, or combinations of that. We're going to standardize on one. From an administrator perspective, I think we were at like 10 or 11 different types. Yeah, we've got listings
This
here.
was just a great snapshot of some of the different.
So there you go, you can see.
It's an
Those
eye
are just
chart.
Eileen's.
Yeah.
And I know Cherie can help us with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need, I mean, I'm not talking just equipment, I'm talking
No.
about everything, all the.
Becoming more
infrastructure.
standardized, right?
Yep.
We are from the cameras, and I think we're seeing that. That's this big push, the start is that this is our push. I do want to say, you know, when you go back to if you go back to the laptop, I just want to share with the board that we actually in November, we have leased laptops right now. I don't remember if I shared this in a previous meeting, so I'm sorry if I didn't, but I'll share now. We have leased laptops where the lease is up in November. And at that point, we're done anyway, so we just have to ship those off. So we were in the cycle of having to replace. It's not like we're just purchasing.
This
This November.
Coming up.
Right, so it makes this purchase reasonable. You know, I didn't want you to think like we're just saying, hey, those other laptops are, you know, just gonna find their way somewhere. I mean, they were leased and the lease is up.
What, this also solves for, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask a quick question. So I know like the TK classrooms ask for iPads, right? Because the kids have easier access to the software that's on there at that like TK level. So I'm just curious, I know we're standardizing the teacher laptops. Is that gonna be an issue like for our TK teachers?
I think we want the best tools that the teachers feel are the best tools for that class. I don't think an iPad, 10, 15 iPads in 4 or 5 classrooms would make a big deal. I mean, we would work. I mean, I wasn't expecting that to be a deal. I was thinking we would continue as is with that. There are apps that they're using that are native to Apple and that they're used to using. So, our goal is that we would continue that use.
I guess part of my question is that if the teacher laptops are all HP, but the TK class, the tool that the kids are being asked to use in that classroom, is there some integration between the apps they have or something that the teachers deploy on those iPads? I just want to make sure that we're thinking about that cross.
Right.
platform.
You currently don't have that collaboration because you have so many different makes and models, but with the standardization, it makes it much easier to create that communication between the two, because it's gonna be an application, right? So it won't be something that's native to either one, but it'll be an app that they can both go to. I think the bigger benefit for this for me is the ability to mitigate when a problem happens. IT is just IT, and stuff tends to break and have problems. Our ability to understand, diagnose, and fix that problem quickly is the complete change and difference and what dictates the experience for an educator, right? So if I have a problem and somebody doesn't know this make, model, and software version, then they're gonna have to dive deep and do research to be able to fix this problem. But if it's standard, I fixed one yesterday just like this. Now all of a sudden that problem is solved instantly. So it's a completely different experience.
So raise the question, are we using web-based software that's agnostic as to the device, that I don't know if that's part of our equation here.
I want to say two things. I think that one, I just want to clarify two things. One is that, yes, we'll look at that. I mean, the idea is that we'd still be using, and if we need a device that manages just those devices, that hasn't come as a need yet, because right now, they're basically using an old version of this computer anyway, right? And then I want to clarify that actually our teacher laptops are consistent. It's like the one thing in the district that is consistent. We purchased them at the same time we leased them, so they're all leased. It's all the other stuff. It's all of the office computers and the counselors and the administrators and the clerks and psychologists. It's all of those things that aren't. And then even more massively is the Chromebooks and not having a standard for Chromebooks. And when you have 3,700 and there's 75 different makes, it makes a big difference. So I just wanted to clarify that as we move forward. Yeah, there's the Chromebooks.
Yeah.
We have
37.
Well, not 75.
No, but we've got what, 5 different manufacturers, right? So that's 5 different support processes.
We have 5 staff leaders in the room right now with 4 different makes of computers.
Very good point.
Very good point.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Goldberg just dropped the mic on that.
This would be the Chromebook standard for the students. Again, making the experience sort of seamless and consistent across the board, so that if and when issues do come up, we're able to mitigate, respond, and fix it, and either swap it out, whatever the case may be, rapidly.
Mike, or Ash, what was I'm just curious, and maybe you don't have the answer today, we just talked about, what was the nexus behind this being the choice? Like this particular Chromebook, as opposed to like the yoga or the touch screen or something like that? Like, was
An
there?
assessment basically of a team that operates inside of 400 different school districts in the state of California. You get the feedback from districts that this is the experience they had and this is the experience that they had. So we use that all on a regular basis. It's like, hey, what experience did your team have with that school district over in Oakland? What did they experience over in Fresno? How was that in San Diego? How did they enjoy this in Irvine? And we collaborate together. We understand like, okay, this is becoming a much better experience for students. And that's basically how we land on that.
All right, let's keep going here.
This is the other donation that Mike talked about, the powerful laptops with dual monitors, which will help sort of kick off some other things, Cyber Patriot, esports that we talked about, but these are the other donations and giveaways that we were giving to the district. And then this is the printers and the copiers. Do you want to touch on that one?
Yeah, so ultimately, we were also asked to take a look at this, I think from a contract perspective, like Dr. Silvers alluded to, the timing worked out pretty good for us to include this in scope. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're looking to migrate to is a HP Color LaserJet multifunction device. Not only are these needed, right, for the hard copy documents throughout the district, but a couple of cool things. Number one, we'll ultimately have full integration with the same badge that you use to access the doors. You will also be able to release your print jobs or copy jobs at the devices, right? This is kind of a best practice inside of K-12 that's growing quite a bit. Maybe outside of K-12 as well. I mean, less badges the better, right?
But what that does is also holds people accountable for their jobs. So you can very easily quickly pull up data over the course of the last year, who has printed what, who has produced what, and what's happened, and where have they gone. All of a sudden, we see every time we implement something like this, a huge drop in the volume usage.
Sure.
And that's all of
They're
a sudden.
tracking me.
So all of a sudden now, yeah, they're tracking.
Our teacher on the board is cringing.
It's like, I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
So much trouble.
No, you're good. You're good. The other thing too, and this is certainly not included in our calculations in any way, shape, or form, but the cost per print for these multifunction printers is significantly less than single function printers. So there would be an extra savings potential for the district with the more volume that was driven to these multifunction printers. Again, not included in our calculations. That's just all gravy for the district.
When you have an added dependency and more confidence in the network, your ability then to feel confident about sending a job from my desk to the machine in the multipurpose room becomes greater, and I can do that, I can release it. That machine, printing on that machine is literally 50%, if not more, less of a cost than printing inside of my classroom, the cost of those toners. And then every school in the world, and you would know this as a teacher, has that cabinet, which is full of 52 different types of toners, and some of them we don't even have the printers for anymore. That alleviates that waste of supplies, right? So you now have a centralized place where you can track not only the volume, but the supplies, the resources, the uptime, all of that.
And I just want to say, this is a process. We're not, you know, saying that we're moving to get rid of printers in classrooms yet. I mean, that's gonna have, that's part of a, you know, that's part of a longer term plan. So I just wanna be clear that we wanna make sure that people have a chance to operate something, to learn. It's kind of a culture shift, that's gonna take time. Anyway, I just wanted to say that.
That's very quickly pointed out at the teacher on the board. Hey, I'm not taking your printer.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
100%, it's a culture shift, and to not take that away quickly is the smart move. I think I completely 100% agree with you.
If the day comes where we do move to that model, it's one of these two gentlemen that's taking your printer. Just make that very clear right here and right now.
Right.
Okay, so Ash, you want to take us through the financial?
Sure. So,
And then Jen's gonna share how we're paying for it, right?
Correct.
Jen's gonna come up too.
Correct.
Jen's been sitting here quietly.
quietly, sorry, Jen, we're way over our time. We're gonna try to speed this up real quick. We've broken down the numbers by architecture, and we can dive deep into those. But the one number that I really am proud of that we've alluded to is the savings. So what you do is when you procure technology like this is you utilize contracts that have already gone out to bid. So some larger public entities have gone out to bid for these exact things, and you get the benefit off of that price. So the government says, okay, here's a price to procuring a specific architecture on that network, and here's the cost on that network. This team has worked so hard that we're able to get the solution to the district at over $10 million below the cost of the NASPO contract. And that is a significant savings. So yes, there is a number there that it says $15 million, but the savings, had you gone out and just simply utilize the NASPO or CMAS contracts, that's where you would end up. And if we compare that
for you.
Oh, man.
national
Association.
It's like a CMAS, but at the national.
It's
level.
exactly correct.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
so there's two recognized contract standards, if you will, CMAS being one, NASPO being the other. And so ultimately, whether it's CMAS or NASPO, you're looking at, to Ash's point, if you were to go just use those contracts and ask for that contract pricing, the solution that we've talked about in all of its detail would be a little over $25 million. But what we're talking about today is actually just slightly over $15 million.
Yeah.
Continue on.
There's multiple ways, obviously, to go about procuring this way. You could go out to a theoretical formal RFP. And if we look at the statistics, when you do a formal RFP versus leveraging a piggybackable contracts, your figures are higher than the piggybackable contract. So think about the three different ways that you could utilize that. You have the piggybackable contract going out to RFP, and this is the solution that we've had, which beats the pricing on the NASPO by over $10 million. So it's not something to gloss over. It's something that I'm super proud of, and the team and all the hard work that's gone into doing this. It's not only a comprehensive solution, but it is fiscally responsible as well. Because we are utilizing Cisco's K-12 Innovation Fund, so for those of you that didn't join us up in San Jose, Cisco dedicates a large sum of money that allows districts to procure things that are not even Cisco. We don't make laptops, Chromebooks, or PCs, or printers. That's not something that we make. But the idea is to empower our school districts to be able to make decisions and implement innovation where they otherwise could not, or they would have to otherwise stagger it. So the quotes and the cost, all of this would basically break down at zero interest, zero fees. There is no cost. It's exactly the same as cash. If the district decides to pay this off early for one reason or another, there is no prepayment penalties. We are not a bank. We are simply providing the district an opportunity to procure a very complex and yes, large solution with the limited fiscal and financial resources that you have available to yourself. So the first year would be 1.25, the next 3 years at 2.3, and then the last year would have a lot.
Should we bring, can we? bring-
Yeah.
I'm curious about the thinking on the balloon payment. Why are we in a better position 5 years from now than we are now to pay that extra amount?
It's a good question. And part of it's what we have to do, just because of the, no, because, and part of it's because of the laws related to how you can use bond dollars.
Right.
So Jim's gonna share a little bit.
Sure.
You
So
wanna-
good evening, President Martinez, trustees and Dr. Silver. So my name is Jen. I'm here from Piper Sandler. So we help the district with your general obligation bonds, right? So I believe the intent is to repay these amounts with your upcoming bond sales. And just to be clear, the bond resolution which you adopted authorizing the election of the bonds and passage of the list of projects does cover technology upgrades. So this is a perfectly fine use of bond proceeds to repay those amounts. So how the bond plan right now is structured is that we are currently scheduled to issue up to $37 million of GO bonds next year. So the plan would be to make payments 2, 3, and 4 from that. You might be wondering payment number 1. Well, that is scheduled or planned to be repaid with the Series A bonds, which we sold last year. And the reason for the 1.25 million in payment 1 is because of the laws that govern the issuance of what are called tax exempt bonds for general obligation bonds. That's the maximum amount of bond proceeds we can allocate from Series A bonds for the payment of this fiscal loan. So going back to payments 2, 3, and 4, the approximately $7 million that's currently estimated here. What we will do is we will set aside that $37 million we're planning to issue. We will set aside $7 million of that for the repayment of the fiscal loans. That will be priority 1. And then priority 2 will be the existing projects that are currently scheduled to be financed with the remaining balance. Now I say up to because there are things that could happen that may change that amount slightly, such as the assessed valuation growth of the school district. Right now, we're assuming a 4% growth year over year. However, something could happen where assessed valuation falls below that. So that may impact the $37 million. It might be slightly less than that. The other thing is the borrowing interest rate on these general obligation bonds. As you know, Federal Reserve Board's actions to curb inflation have resulted in high interest rates. So that may impact the final size of the next series. But the overall consensus and the belief right now is that we would be able to issue up to $37 million, and we would surely enough to be able to designate $7 million of that for the repayment. The 5th payment there scheduled for 2028, that coincides with our 3rd series of bonds. So from the 3rd series of bonds, we will designate about $7 million for the repayment of the fiscal loan, the final payment. So that's the current plan right now. One other thing that I would like to mention is prior to the fiscal loan, our bond plan was structured and engineered to address then what we thought would be the priority projects. After the district enters into the fiscal loan, the primary objective of the bond phasing and the bond plan will be to ensure the timely repayment of the fiscal loan so that your general fund is insulated from encumbering and making payments on the fiscal loan. So that's just the overview of what we will do with the general bond plan going forward.
Could you just explain the difference between, like, the reason why it's a 1.25 million for this current payment and then why?
The largest.
But why we're able to do more in 2, 3, and 4?
Sure. So the reason why we will be able to do more in this 2nd, 3rd, and 4th payment is that because we now know that some of the bond proceeds will be used to repay these fiscal loans, we will designate the $7 million as what's commonly known as taxable bonds. So when we issue the 2nd series of bonds, we'll have 2 parts. One part is tax exempt, which is identical to what we did with Series A. Series A was all tax exempt. And then we'll designate a portion, the $7 million portion, as taxable. So you might be wondering, well, what's the difference? What's the difference? tax exempt, right? When the investors purchase tax exempt bonds, the interest that the investors earn is exempt from paying taxes. So what the investors will do is, okay, we will buy your bonds at a lower interest rate since we don't have to pay taxes on that. For taxable bonds, the investors will have to pay income taxes on the interest received on that bonds. Therefore, the investors will ask for a higher interest rate. So you might also wonder, well, what might be the delta between a tax exempt and a taxable bond? Right now, the current thinking is that the estimated difference is about 1.75%. So tax exempt interest rate is 1.75% lower than a taxable bond.
And why are these taxable?
It's because of the use. So the tax law is written, and we had a conversation with the district's council. Because the purpose is to repay a loan and not finance hard projects, we need to designate a portion of the bond issuance as taxable. So we get out from the restrictive use of issuing tax exempt bonds.
I get it. I'm just disappointed there's no creative way around that.
So could we request another loan from Cisco at 0%, zero fees to finance a project?
Theoretically, you can, but what we would then do is we would readjust the bond plan so that more of your future bonds would be taxable to make the regularly scheduled payments.
So it would still be, but I thought it would be, I thought it would be tax exempt. It's the loan. It's the loan.
It's the loan factor,
So
yes.
just because it's a loan, so.
Right. To make the regularly scheduled payment, it would have to be taxable. Yeah. So, the other common questions I get is, well, how would that impact our bond issuance? If we have a combination of taxable and tax exempt, right? Well, when we built this bond plan a couple of years ago, we were assuming a 5% interest rate as the borrowing interest rate on the bonds. Right now, a tax exempt interest rate is about 4.5%. So that's below our 5% plan. So if you were to add 1.75 to the 4.5, we come at about 5.25%, which is above the 5%. However, the average would be below the 5% we're assuming, because more of the $37 million would be at the 4.5 than the 5.25. So the average would be below what we're used as a planning tool. So from an overall perspective, from a property owner, there would be no impact for that.
So I don't know if there's a question for Noemi or Blake or you, Jen. What was our original? There's Noemi, you said automatically. What was our original technology infrastructure allocation, and how aligned is this investment to that?
Much higher. I'll say that it is much higher. But I know. Yeah.
I knew you were gonna ask that. 10.3 million. Well,
It's
that's
10.3
safety
million
and
over,
security.
or
For
10.3
safety-
million is what we had allocated?
From the facilities master plan, what was allocated from safety and security and network and
all part of that.
infrastructure is 10.3 million total. If you need me to split it up, it's 7.4 million for technology and infrastructure and 4.1 million for safety and security. District-wide.
Wasn't this kind of old?
No,
No, not at all.
and I want to clarify too, that part of this project is safety and security systems. It's not just the network, right? So the network is one thing, and it is a little more expensive. But, anyway.
And there was no way at the time of facilities master
We didn't
plan.
know this, yeah.
It was a like for like.
So
Discuss.
my compliments on the presentation, exceptional, and very excited about this. I just want to bring to the attention of the board that I'm in support of this, but the issue that we're doing by supporting this is consciously deciding to not do something else. But we haven't decided what that other thing not to do is, because we have finite dollars. And we're spending more than we'd originally allocated for this. Again, I'm supportive. Our first assurance is safety, and that's what this is. However, I want to bring consciousness to the fact that we have finite resources. As a result, we are deciding to limit some other choice. We have to have that conversation.
I would say too, and we have had that conversation. We actually had an extensive conversation today.
Thank you.
When we look at the list of projects, and we have to see too, because I want to preface it, 'cause I'm going to say something that will be held against me. But as we look at a list of projects,
You are being recorded.
I am being recorded. There's going to be matching funds. There's going to be other ways that we could. Right, exactly. There's other ways that we're going to be able to go about getting, money and hopefully extending that money and maybe being able to make some of these projects happen. Seems like the baseball and softball field at Del Air is going to be the first thing in jeopardy. Because we have to focus on safety and security, network security, and our K-8 instructional programs, which is going to include aviation. So I would say that because we have that scheduled out in our 4 series anyway, that we'll just have to see how much money we have at the end and see how much we can do. But it seems like that, if I were to recommend to the board, that would be the area that I would say we explore more.
Yeah. And there's,
I think just a reminder that like the facilities master plan had like $120 million worth of projects in it, and we did a $98 million bond. So we always knew that there were going to be projects that were projected in the facilities master plan that we weren't going to be able to get to. But this was priority number 1, even in the facilities master plan.
Yeah.
So I'm less concerned about those projects that we end up having to jettison in that $30+ million bucket, in favor of these priority projects that we saw as so critical when we adopted that plan. But like you, Neil, I'm in support of this. I think it's critical for learning, it's critical for safety, it's critical for all of the things that we want our students, and being technology ready, being future ready, all of the assurances seem to be, enhanced by this kind of project. The fact that we had a cabinet at one of our school sites that was the brain trust for the entire thing, and that it wasn't waterproof, is crazy. Like those, that's the level, I think, just for folks at home who are listening, like just to be reminded of where we're taking us from to, even just over this one summer. The reason that you go to a wiseburn.org site instead of a wiseburn.ca, that whatever K12.edu, is because of a ransomware attack several years ago, right? Those kinds of things I hope will be prevented in the future, so we don't have to do those kinds of things. So thank you for the presentation. I'm excited about the project, and like I said, I think the facilities master plan was always going to be a dream scenario. And so we have to make hard choices about where that comes from. And I agree with you. I think that there are going to be places where we're going to be able to find other funds to do some things, I hope, with matching funds, hopefully with a grant writer.
Right.
And those sorts of things. So,
Can I say one other thing too? And I don't want to belabor this, but I want to give it its time because it's a $16 million project. And so I do want to share that one of the things that we also have to look at in our bond planning, and something that Noemi, when I talked about, and Sheree as well, is the fact that, and Nelson, actually, I should bring that up, is that we, when you walk aviation, for those of you that have seen, aviation needs significant repair. It needs, repair is probably not even the right word. It needs significant overhaul. Yeah. And so as we look at that, I think, yes, we have a technology infrastructure project and safety project that's going to be more expensive, but I also think we're going to be looking at a school that needs more extensive work than what we may have anticipated. So, funneling resources from later series is going to be important to do those two, which are priorities, right? To make sure that aviation also lives up to the same standard of school that our other schools do. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Couple of quick comments as well. Just want to share and, first of all, say thank you, Neil, for your comments there in terms of the priority projects and the funding, because those are the choices that we need to make as we study these different projects. It's always a cost benefit, like which one should we do first? And theoretically, when we're looking at the facilities master plan, that's probably the most conceptual phase of any capital improvement bond program. It is so early on with such limited information. It really is a projection and impossible to predict actual true numbers. So I wanted to say, Ash and Mike, thank you for today's presentation, because you also shared with us, you spent together with our team between 6 to 8 months, if I heard correctly, in studying specifically the needs of the Wiseburg Unified School District just for this project. I think we spent it was about 2 years. I think it was for the facilities master plan with our architects of LPA, but their scope was not to dive into the nuts and bolts, specifically which cameras do and don't work, or this board, to do a final plug on that board, right? But that's what this project did. And this is a real actual number that's being provided for a project with a schedule that can be implemented and starting as early as August. So if we look at the comparison of the facilities master plan concepts to where we're at today, very conceptual number to a hard construction dollar value. So I think I'm in support of this project then I won't reiterate all the great comments that my colleagues have made here on the project, but I do think the district is at the point where we can move towards a much better place in terms of technology and what the future is going to bring for not only for our district, but for our students. We also had a presentation on AI, right, at our last board meeting, and I'm sure that's going to come with different technology needs as well. So I view this as an investment in the district and us looking towards the future and getting ready for what's to come. So I'm 100% in support of the project.
Yeah, I just want to make a few comments. I'm not going to repeat everything. I do want to commend Mike and Ash for a great presentation and presenting it in a manner that all of us here can understand, including the community that's probably listening in. To me, I agree with Neil's comments and Roger and Rebecca's. This is the most important project that we're undertaking. This is what our community wants to see as reflected in the facilities master plan in terms of safety and security. Our families, our parents, they want to make sure that we have a safe, secure site. So, and what I love about the project is that this is parity among all the schools. Completely support this project. We'll have decisions to make, but I think the community, the families, the students, the teachers will understand the importance of this project. So thank you again. And I just have one question for you guys. In 7 years, will you buy the equipment back?
Here now, sir.
And you're being recorded.
And thank you to Jen it sounds like this was a collaborative effort on financing, making this work. Appreciation to all. Thank you.
Okay. One final note here, wanted to, actually, she's coming up to the podium, so I was going to ask Cherie if she had any final or any thoughts as well on the project. I know as our lead project manager on this project, you spent a lot of time on it, so I look forward to hearing your thoughts.
It has definitely been a team effort. I mean, there's so many people that have been working on this that it's not just one person. So I want to commend everybody that's taken the time and the effort to get this project to where it is today. I look forward to the future. The one thing I am very happy to see is the support for this project. It is a very aggressive timeline. And I am going to ask, I know this is not an action item, but I do want to reiterate the timeline for the project and ask with your guys' support of the information that's been presented to you this evening. I would like to issue a limited notice to proceed to NWN. I know that does put the district at risk, but I do foresee that everything is going to move forward. It just will allow NWN a couple weeks before we bring the full item to the board for approval, to allow them to start doing their procurements of some of their long lead items to ensure that we are able to accomplish what we need to accomplish over the summer. So again, it's not action, so I'm kind of just looking for a head nod that you guys are in support of that, so we can go ahead and.
Yeah.
Blake, why
I
did you do
had a
that?
question on the legality of this, and you said this is something that's done with regularity.
I think the scope, correct, has been finalized and the contract language has been finalized as well.
We are working through all of that at this time. Again, we're working with district legal counsel. We're working with Cisco finance team. We're still working with Cisco and NWN. But at this time, everything is moving forward. The only thing we're asking is for them to start getting some of their procurements in place so we can achieve the aggressive miles schedule for the project this summer. No physical work on site will commence Obviously, we want to protect the district and the district facilities. So no physical work on site as far as, until we have bonds and insurance and an executed contract is in place will occur.
Can I just say
I'm
too,
looking for thumbs.
I'm not sure what we're committing to, so. So I would just say for Ash and Mike, you know, you've worked through these contracts and projects before. I mean, 111 districts or whatever it is. You haven't had issues with these contracts in the past, and they've worked with Saparna at Atkinson Andelson as well. So I see this as being a pretty low risk. I would just share it's a pretty low risk.
We are,
Procurement.
we're procuring, but we are not committing to spend anything yet. We're just getting it going. Should some unexpected turn happen, we're not making a financial commitment by thumbs up this request.
Correct. And if I could just
Well, then I'm
expand
comfortable
upon
with
what Sheree said, what it really enables more than anything is for NWN Carousel to assign the project team and have everything ready to go so that once you
Resources.
do, you know, ultimately vote on this in 2 weeks, they can hit the ground running the next day.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
With that.
Roger's good too. Yep. All right.
I'm gonna abstain. I'm not sure that we can do that.
That was my question.
I mean, well, it's not an action item.
It's not action.
And we're not committing to
It's
anything,
not an
actually.
action item, I guess.
We're just saying we're likely to commit. It's pretty much what we're saying. I mean, there's no.
Well, it's not a vote, so there's no.
We're not
there's no-
agreeing
there's
with
no-
anything right now. We're simply
It's
saying
not an action
we
item. I
expect
don't
this to
think
move
I
forward.
don't think it matters. I mean, it's.
It's just you giving direction. That's what it is. It's not you approving a contract. It's you giving direction. That's it.
I think, Mr. President, you can call this yourself, sir.
Past Blake, it sounds like we can move forward, so let's move forward with that.
Again, it is a limited notice to proceed. So there's.
And what will the limited notice of proceed actually say? Is it what Mike just described as just basically for NWN Carousel to really get their team going?
Correct.
Okay, so.
There is no physical work.
No physical work, no really money commitment, doesn't sound like. This is just them to start.
It's gonna come from Cisco, and until we have the executed contract in place, because Cisco's the one that's paying NWN.
Yeah.
One's on the hook.
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
so on that note, I think I'm okay with that, so. Okay, thank you.
Finally, Jen, when is Series B to be made available?
Series B is currently expected to be sold 2025, so next year.
2025.
Yeah, so next summerish.
August, June.
Okay, all right,
August
so
is the
sooner than
current
we
time.
realized. Yeah. Thank you.
And just thank you again for everybody. I know this has been a difficult, project undertaking because it's a very creative, project and the way we're utilizing the different procurement methods. So thank you, because like Sheree says, I know there's a lot of people behind the scenes involved in this. So thank you for everyone coming together and being in the situation that we're in today, and looking forward to this action item coming at the next board meeting. So thank you. Thank you again.
Real quick,
Yes.
if I could just take the opportunity to thank Sheree and Noemi for their incredible professionalism and really just keeping everyone on task so that we even have the possibility of this timeline coming to fruition this summer. Without them, none of this would have been possible. I know there's a lot more, but they've been.
You know, their egos are already pretty big. I just wanted to.
I know.
At the risk of their heads not being.
Cannot take credit. It was all Sheree. Sheree has been amazing.
There's no way we would be able to meet these aggressive timelines without these.
Awesome.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it's critical.
Big heads.
I have a question. Have we gotten any agenda items yet?
Oh, that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation.
Nelson, a point of order. Can you just remind me, did we actually do public comments on non-agenda items? Okay, because I
We
don't
did.
remember.
We
hearing
did.
it.
Yeah.
But okay, all right.
And now we're on a public comment agenda.
On agenda items, yeah.
So Wendy, do we have any public comments on agenda items?
None.
All right, fantastic. All right. That leads us to consent items. Do I have a motion for 8.1?
So moved.
Who is that, Rebecca? Thank you, Rebecca.
I'll second.
Thank you, Roger. Any comments or questions? No?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic. Action items, 9.1, amendment number 1. This is for Da Vinci High School cafe reconfiguration and kitchen modernization project for architectural design services, PBK Architects, obviously to be funded from Measure EE bond. Do I have a motion?
You have a motion?
Thank you, Roger. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Michelle. Any comments or questions here?
Yeah. Because we're spending $5 million more than we expected, likely. I'm uncomfortable making more commitments to things before we've decided that we're comfortable not making commitments to other things. So I don't want to not do this, but I'm uncomfortable doing it, not having that answer.
Completely understand. Question that I have on this. I saw the amendment, read the amendment. I think it's in the 312,000. There was a little bit of discrepancy between what I saw in the proposal and what's in here. I think the numbers were off by 312,000 versus 328. I'll have to double check, but
It includes both
Really?
the $17,000 for the cafe
Mhm.
plus the 320 something, 20,000 for the kitchen modernization.
okay. So the question that I have is because at the last meeting, this spiked up. Neil's right. It spiked up at the last board meeting. I think it was sticker shock for all of us. Are we going to, is the plan to direct PBK to go to schematic design, get a cost estimate and get an idea first where we're at before we move any further so that this board can have an idea of what because it wasn't necessarily written that way, but can we make maybe an amend the action where it allows us to direct the architect to proceed to schematic with a cost estimate so we have an idea.
It's per our district agreement. That is expected. A cost estimate is expected from
I
every
understand.
architectural firm after every stage of design. So
Right.
it's part of the contract.
So in other words, where I'm trying to go with it to kind of address what Neil's talking about is before we move on any further to construction documents, right?
Correct.
Will we have an opportunity to
Absolutely.
make? okay,
Absolutely.
that's
So
what
right
I'm-
now.
And does that lower this cost
No.
estimate?
No, it doesn't lower the cost
It
estimate,
could
but
eliminate it at that point, that will pay up to the schematic design phase. And that's it. If the desire of the board at that time is to put the project on hold, then it goes on hold and we don't pay the difference for the remaining phase, which is design development, construction documents.
And explain out like that in the contract agreement. No, I mean, I saw it, but I just wanted to make sure that it's gonna come back to the
It
board
is.
so that we can, and you know, obviously it'll go
Right.
facilities committee, then the board.
Right.
But that's what I wanted to
So
clarify.
what PBK has concluded right now is the programming phase. They've met with us, with Da Vinci to understand the scope of the project. They've also reviewed the previous drawings by Gensler, who was the original architect. From that, they've developed a very high level, rough order of magnitude, a cost estimate for this project. They're looking at about 4.1 million, but this is programming. This is not even schematic design. So to Nelson's point, we will direct PBK by approving the proposal to start that phase. At the conclusion of the phase, we'll do the cost estimate and we'll bring the results back to the board.
I guess my question / concern is sort of related to Neil's on where the money's coming from for the rest of the project. And just, I think my recollection has been refreshed that Da Vinci had committed to pay for at least some part of this project. And I understand this is just the schematic design, but for us to outlay this money on a project when we have these other priorities, right, in terms of phasing, I guess I'm just questioning that piece of it.
You can answer that.
Okay, so part of it will be paid for. For example, all costs related to the cafe will definitely be reimbursed.
Right.
We've been told by all three people, the CBO, Dr. Under, and Vicente, that they've made that very clear, that they'll cover all costs associated with the cafe. The only reason we're bringing the amendment here now is because the district has a contract already in place with PBK. It makes sense for us to use our district legal counsel approved agreement rather than just issuing a PO directly through them. And then they could just reimburse us for that $17,000. We will assist them with going out to bid once the repairs are needed, or they're ready to make the repairs. They will fund those repairs. So all of that will be handled. Anything regarding the cafe will be covered. When it comes to the kitchen, once we have the actual cost, it'll be determined how much the district will cover versus Da Vinci. Da Vinci has said that $4.1 million ROM does include some added stuff that Da Vinci has already expressed that they will cover. For example, any needed improvements to for example, the multi-purpose room, and because of modifications to the current server area. The storage closet, they're willing to pay for that. Right now, the storage area is what's going to be retrofitted to be the actual warming kitchen, the actual prepping kitchen, if you will. And as a result, they're going to have to build a new storage area. They have agreed to pay for that. We'll get to that, who pays what, once we actually have a cost estimate that's broken down by division of work.
Now, I do have something to say. I think that one of the things I would recommend to the board, I think this is an important process for us to go through because it'll give us a better idea of what this project is. And it is a facility of ours that's going to serve food to kids that come from our middles. You know, I mean, these are still our kids here that are eating here and all of that. So I think that at least understanding what the project would look like with the ability to parachute out of it, if it is too, I may come back and we're just like, we just can't do it. But we don't know what we're saying no to until we do this process. That's my recommendation. I would recommending approving it if the board.
Yeah, and I think the only thing is to note Neil's comment is,
Yeah,
as a board, we do have some difficult decisions to make. Because I think that it's important to at least move forward to some degree on this project to understand what the scope is, because I think that we were all surprised. We were all surprised with the CT studio, right? This is no different. But going back to Blake's comments, I think that we'll have to make some decisions on what is the priority. And that there isn't anything wrong with going back and looking at our priorities, right? And that means that it comes at the cost of something else. And so as a board, we have to make that decision so that we can actually provide you or staff direction on how we're going to move forward. So I think we do need to have that conversation. I just don't think we have enough information right now with regards to the kitchen. We do need to at least get them to schematic with the cost estimate so we can understand that scope.
I'm more questioning the timing. We just talked about aviation has like these dramatic needs, right? I would rather spend $300,000 figuring out what aviation's true needs are and the cost of that project than this kitchen project. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I understand we have this contract with PBK. I know there's a few bugs in there right now. Not technology ones, real ones. But you know, so I understand wanting to do it with this because we already have this contract in place with PBK and all of that. I think I'm just questioning outlaying the funds for figuring out the scope of this particular project when we do have other bigger projects that we want to make sure we get to with the funds that we have, and we definitely don't know what those costs are. So I don't want folks to feel like we're prioritizing a lower priority project by outlaying these funds, even if we haven't committed to it. So that's
I have no answer to that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I think part of it too is the kitchen. I think in terms of priorities, I don't see the kitchen here as a lower priority project. I think it's incredibly important to provide nutrition for our students. I mean, absent of that, I mean, the process that's happening now for the food prep at Weisburn Middle School to have it brought here, it is not ideal. I mean, and Blake, and you can share some of those challenges.
Yeah.
So for me, food and nutrition for our students is a really high priority project because of the challenges it brings. And it's the last piece, if you will, of finishing out this building that we Wiseburn have committed to building. I mean, the soccer field is moving forward, and that kitchen is, we did run out of funds on the last bond, right? And we had to make tough choices then. And I think we're at the point now, at some point, we have to finish that kitchen for the school site. But yes, very difficult choices as we move forward as well. I do like our approach because I think it's solid in getting us to that schematic design phase. Because this is $300,000, but if Noemi, correct me if I got my numbers off here, but I believe up to schematic design, it's about 20% of the fee, right?
Sounds about right.
For architectural services. So we're really looking at $60,000 to commit for PBK to do the design up to schematics, plus whatever on the overall total kitchen. From the 300,000, we were looking at 20% because they have a graduated scale based
Correct.
on their milestones.
By
And I think
milestone of
after CDs, it's
the
up to
design phase.
60% or something like that. But there's a decision point at the end of schematic design with a cost estimate. So we're really looking at $60,000 right now to make a decision.
So if I may, if that is true, I would be more comfortable with a couple things. And I respect, Mr. President, you can call a vote, but what I'd be more comfortable with is a proposal that we voted on the schematic portion
Mhm.
and not the rest. So we had, because by voting on this, we're authorizing the whole thing. Right.
Schematic is 10%.
So whatever gets us to that answer, then I'd be more comfortable with that. I'd be more comfortable tabling this to our 2 weeks from now in that meeting. In a perfect world, and I know this is imperfect and perhaps dreaming, to have a full layout where we have a conversation, at least at the initial phase, of all the monies allocated that are likely to come and what's before us. So we can have some kind of look at what decisions we're making. I feel like what we were doing, and this is gonna sound ridiculous, but maybe this makes some sense, is the toilet roll is really full right now. So we're just taking a lot of toilet paper. And then we realize when we get to the end of the roll or the end of that we don't have much left. And I don't want to make that, I don't want decisions to be made when we don't have much left on the paper towel roll or the toilet roll. I want to have that decision now. So if we tabled this, we put on the agenda just that portion that moves us forward, but at least gives us the ability to not commit too much. We have an understanding, at least on some level, of what other decisions this is potentially impacting. I'd be much more comfortable.
So if I may, I agree with all of my colleagues' comments. Rebecca, you're right. I just walked aviation elementary school and completely understand. So here, my recommendation would be this, that we move, because all the 5 board members are here. I think there's a few board members that are not gonna be here at the next meeting. So my suggestion is that we move forward with this, with your comments, Neil, that we move forward with the schematic. Only at this point, right?
Schematic and cost estimate.
And it's got cost estimate. The cost estimate, I think, is included as part of that schematic.
13,200.
Yeah, it's included in that schematic phase.
So what number are we?
No, not part of the.
It's not,
10%.
it's a
It's
separate cost.
but it's part of the
13,200.
schematic phase.
Of course.
So
So
it's,
it's dollar value, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. There's 2 components, up to the 10%, which will be 36,000 plus the 13 for the estimate.
Yeah.
So we're looking at $50,000.
right. So I think we move forward with that. And then I think what you're alluding to, Neil, is that we come back and have a meeting as a board and look at the priorities again and take a look at it from that, and then we're gonna have to make some tough decisions, which means some of this stuff is coming at the cost of other priority projects.
100%.
I think Blake mentioned one already that could be that risk. It's towards the end, but it's the fields at the Del Air site. So not the Del Air Park area, not the Del Air site, but.
I do want to say that we're talking approximate numbers too. So we're
Right.
saying $50,000. I mean, there's going to be a number that's a real number. So I just want to be clear. I mean, I want to make sure that there's some flexibility. I would also like to say that, and I know you know this, but I just want to say we've done a pretty good job of managing these projects. We're not gonna bring, if the board's direction is let's get through schematic design and bring back some real information, we're not gonna go through PBK and have them go through further design. We want to be judicious too. So we would say if the direction from the board, we could approve this contract, the direction from the board is that we're gonna go through schematic, get a cost estimate. We won't do anything further until we bring that back to you and we have further discussion. I think that would work I hope that would work for
Do we not
everybody.
have to amend this item in some way to make that clear?
I don't think we do because I think,
It's a requirement as part of every phase of the contract. You don't have a contract in front of you. It's when they're first awarded the original contract amount. This is an amendment to their contract.
so there will.
But it's still based on the,
That's what you're saying,
so it,
They will issue a notice to proceed on
Correct.
the next phase.
so with every architect, with every project, after every single phase of design, once we conclude that phase and once we have an opportunity to review the cost estimate, and if it's within budget, then at that point, we give them authorization to proceed to the next phase. They will not proceed on their own. They cannot. They need to have some sort of
I'm not
approval.
comfortable voting for $364,000 authorization today.
Can I ask one other question on the timing? How long do we think it will take them to do? I didn't, apologies if it's in here, but in terms of like schematic, like what are we talking about? Is it months? Is it weeks? Like,
Schematic is generally about a month and a half.
I guess I'm just like, will we have been able to have the meeting that they're talking
Yes,
about?
1 month. So 1 month for schematic design plus the cost estimating, so I would say probably a month and a half.
Okay, because I just
Generally,
want to
they
make
can
sure
have
that we
it in
have
months.
this meeting about the prioritization before we're asked to decide, right, whether to move forward with this particular project. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, can we get to that, like, what have we committed to? What's still left to do in phase one, like all that
Certainly do
stuff?
whatever the board wants.
Because I think it will be important to, Neil's point, to have that conversation before we decide whether to move forward, depending on what this, cost is with outlaying another,
We're probably gonna have the schematic design and cost estimate completed first, then have the workshop, but vote on the project after the workshop.
Right.
Because even if we have the workshop first, we're gonna be in this position, not knowing the numbers, right?
Yeah,
So I'm
okay,
definitely
fair.
comfortable with that, right? Have
Sure.
just the workshop after.
Yeah.
Cause now we have the numbers in hand. You can factor that into the forecast of the projects and the budgets, Noemi?
And I don't know if, other thing I should have probably mentioned, I don't know if you guys recall, both you and Roger and Nelson, at the FOC meeting that we had recently, I had mentioned that we initially were trying to pay for the design fee out of the grant, the CTE grant that Da Vinci had. So the proposal actually had come in higher at $383,000 just for the kitchen. So I've already negotiated the fee down significantly, as we do with every other contract, and brought it down to, and PBK is always great. They don't fight back. They just do it. So.
Yeah, this is not a comment. You guys are representing us tremendously well. That's not.
Just so, at least we've already reduced about
Yeah,
$60,000 of that, their
The
fees.
process, the alignment and having the conversation on the priorities, I'm 100% behind that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think on the workshop, to what Neil's mentioned is I think we need to get some updated costs. Now that we know, we have some updated costs like on the technology infrastructure and so forth, we know that is gonna come at the expense of something else. So then maybe, working with Blake, some of the recommendations on what we would consider actually not doing, right? So
Which we had
I think that's part of that
doing
workshop.
Anyway, in August, so I think that we'll just have to do it earlier.
And one more thing, if I may.
Yeah.
None of this is personal. This isn't about individuals. This is about contracts and commitments. I do think the CT studio is instructive in that best intentions were laid, commitments were made, they were not lived to because they simply were not too doable. As a result of that, I am uncomfortable with making a commitment to anybody or working with anybody on the idea that they've said they're going to pay for this. I'm not comfortable with that because we've had the experience where that didn't happen at no one's fault.
Yeah.
So if Da Vinci is going to be a partner in this, which I encourage they have every intention of doing, I would be much more comfortable if we have an agreement on that partnership rather than just somebody saying we're going to do it. That's not personal. It's just smart business from my perspective.
Completely understand. So I think we understand everyone's position. I just think we go ahead and take the, I think I had a motion from from Roger on this item. Is that correct? And Michelle, or is that's what I have written down here? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay. Right, next item, action items, fiscal. Do I have a motion for items 10.1 through 10.10?
I moved 10.1 to 10.5. I have a couple questions on 6 and 7.
There was 10.1 through 10.5?
Mhm.
Thanks, Rebecca. We have a second on 10.1 through 10.5?
I'll second.
Thank you, Roger. Any comments or questions on 10.1 through 10.5?
The term, 10.3, Blake, I believe the agreement was to be to June 30th, 2025, not 2024.
Correct.
So it's just that modification.
Yeah, it was a error.
Yeah. Just to
Oh, it was already changed, right?
I changed on the agenda, the typo.
Yeah, excellent. That's all.
All right, no other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I guess we'll just take it one at a time here.
That was a 10.5, right?
Yeah, 10.1 to 10.5.
I would move 10.6 to 10.10.
Yeah.
Sure.
With that, yeah.
Okay, we'll move, was that you, Neil?
Yes.
And then Rebecca,
Second
you
it.
second, okay. And then I think Rebecca, you had questions on 10.6 and 7, so I'll start with 10.6.
Yeah, I guess it's 6, 7, and 8. They
Oh,
just,
6,
I
7,
just
8.
want to confirm that they are all for multiple students, or because it says students in each of them, or just wanted to clarify if these additional costs were due to a particular, not a particular student, just like a settlement or an agreement, or if this is just like overall we've had increased needs in these areas.
It's the latter. Overall, we've had increased needs for 10.7 for EPIC and 10.8, 10.6 and 10.7 are for several students. We've had increased need. 10.8 is for one student.
And then we talked at the last meeting about on 10.10 about IEEs. And so just wanted to clarify that that this was one that we had previously agreed to do and it's an increased cost?
Yes, so back on, let me look. Back on 516, thank you. You had approved a consultant agreement with Susan Haller to do an IEE, and then that was not able to be completed. There was timeline issues with her being able to conduct it in a timely manner, and the parents found another agency, and we are changing it up. So that money will be used for this contract.
For a different,
Mhm.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, all in favor for items 10.6 through 10.10?
Aye.
Aye.
No, abstain.
Oh, on all of them, rather?
Yes, because they're grouped. I was gonna abstain on
Okay,
10.6 to 10.8, but they were grouped.
okay. All right, so we have one abstain. Okay,
11.1 and 2.
you good with that, Roger, or did you want me to?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I previously had voted to approve 10.10, because that was just a change in service providers.
Okay. Okay. The next one is items 11.1 and 11.2. Do I have a motion for 11.1 through 11.2?
So moved.
Thank you, Rebecca. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Michelle. All in favor?
Aye.
Right. I think we're upcoming dates, Blake, we have promotion.
I have a presentation for this.
No, I have nothing left.
Just
We have the promotion tomorrow, which,
Promotion.
And can I just, actually I have a couple things. Can I just get a show of hands, just so we make sure we have appropriate seats? I mean, I know Rebecca, Roger, Nelson, Neil, and maybe at 2. So I know your last day of school is tomorrow. No pressure. We're just gonna, we'll save a seat for you. We will.
like to be there. I just don't know what state.
And we are represented.
Yeah.
Yeah, you represented for the others as well.
Yeah, we've I mean, it's been a long time since we've had all fives, and four is a lot too. I mean, haven't, so I'm happy that we have.
No pressure, right?
No.
Yeah.
You're trying to go the other way. I'm trying to go the other way. Yeah, it's just, you know, we've never had fives.
My equal physical, like.
There we go.
Second, question was, I know we have some upcoming board meetings in July, and I know there's some travel going on. We actually had to move that meeting to July 16th. And I just want to make sure, I just want to make sure we have.
So this is not July 17th, it's July 16th.
16th, right? Yeah.
The 16th.
So like if we may, on June 25th, I know Roger's out.
Correct.
Is anybody else out on June 25th?
I'm here.
Okay, so the Roger's out the 25th. And then what about the 28th?
27th.
28th or 27th?
28th, that's at 7:30 a.m. meeting
7:30.
Oh, yeah, I'm,
or 8 a.m. Yeah.
I'm here.
I have to do it remotely.
So Michelle,
Yeah.
so that one
Can't do
is,
that one, I thought.
I mean,
I'll be that I could.
That-
Might as well, now, so the 28th.
yeah, I know Roger's out, so that's, Michelle, you might be out.
We'll have three.
Now, it's, yeah, the thing, I heard it was an early one. but
Early.
I think I need to be at the airport like at 8.
Okay, so she won't, so it'll be,
The three of
so
them.
Rebecca, you'll be here.
We just
So
have to be-
That's important one, because that's.
I mean,
the,
that's our budget.
budget.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I won't say what the penalty is if we don't do that. I'm just gonna
He
say.
loses ownership
I
of the
just-
whole.
Yeah, I lose a lot.
So we're all,
So hopefully we have at least three.
Okay.
And I would just say that when on the 25th, if there's concerns with the LCAP or anything you want in comment, if you can do that on the
can we do
25th.
everything on the 25th?
Can't. We
Yeah.
can't. Eileen made the rule.
Public hearing.
That's because of and because of these documents. We just have to do it this way.
No, I was just wondering if we could combine it all on the 25th.
Oh.
Okay, and then now go to your July, like, I know I'm out July 16th.
Right. So July 16th, I just want to make sure, I mean, that's going to be probably a pretty important construction meeting, you know, or, we'll have some updates and such. So,
I'm here.
Roger, you're
I'm
here.
here on the 16th, yes.
Okay.
And
so we have three.
So-
Okay. So we have three.
so Michelle and I are out.
Okay. Then should we just go to August then? Let's just check the August date, which is the 15th of August.
That's next year.
That's next August.
Wait a minute. What are we doing? August 15th?
Guys,
Because that's.
Oh, this is next year. I'm looking, that's why it's wrong.
Yeah.
it's just a
I
draft.
well, I didn't see,
It's next year.
no.
So August 15th
At
is
least we're on the
fine
same
on my
page right now.
calendar.
Okay. 15th, Michelle, yes. Roger, yes. You're good the 15th? August?
Yes.
August. Okay, everybody's back. Perfect. Okay, so what we'll do then, just for we'll make sure that we'll kind of keep that July meeting light. Few agenda items. In fact, if we find out that we don't need it because there's only three, we may just try and kick it to the August meeting. In a worst case scenario, I mean, if we absolutely don't need it, if we do, we'll just have it. We have three members and we could just make it happen. Or just, I guess what I'm saying is, we'll make it only for those things that absolutely have to get approved for us to do business. Okay? For July, the July 16th meeting. August we're having, we have all five. Yep. Okay.
That one for staff.
Good. I think I'm good. Yeah. That's
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Wonderful 2024 school year coming to an end. Thank you again to all staff and administration for a wonderful year, and happy summer to everybody.